After 7 exhausting years, they still have zero clue what his actual power is, and they are going to regret it very soon. 7 years wasted, he threw all that time into the trash serving Curris. He acted as their shield, the one guy standing directly between life and death itself. Just so the geniuses could shine, in the final battle, his heavy shield cracked, his bones screamed for mercy while holding the boss alone. Screaming for help that never came, instead he got only boring stares. Once the monster was defeated, their true colors finally showed on screen. The masks of his so-called friends fell right along with it. Guts, the leader, dumped him there in the rubble, under rain that mocked his misery. The betrayal was cold-blooded. Kim Hyun-tae called him a complete failure. Si-yeon laughed at his weakness, and Mia Lee treated him like dirt. They kicked him out with a pathetic severance after 7 years of loyalty. 10 million won is only about $7,000. 7 years of his life, and he is basically broke. Right then he realized he was never a comrade, just a disposable tool. But fate has a sick sense of irony. At his absolute lowest, something awoke. Glowing green grids and probability calculations invaded his vision, a reality hack. Guiding him to the small epic guild, there the impossible actually happened. Sylph, an elemental wind spirit dormant for 12 years, chose him. With a massive mana explosion lighting up the skies, he changed forever. No longer the punching bag, he became a legendary wind elementalist. The main character just unlocked a unique class called the Elementalist class, giving him the ability to communicate with legendary spirits and borrow their skills. In this world, fighters with these contracts are known as elementalists. They are incredibly rare and highly respected, with just one capable of rivaling an entire guild. The world has its legends. First is Luca Harrison from England, the Elementalist of Mist. Next is Malisai Soifua from Samoa, the Elementalist of Water. Finally, there is Abu Bakr from Egypt, the Elementalist of Sand. Each of these titans operates on a completely different level. Now, a brand new elemental hero is born. Back in the house, Kim is still on the floor after the blast, while Jahan stands there holding a glowing green sphere. Behind him, the silhouettes of other mighty elementalists loom, destined to cross paths in his long journey of vengeance. Jahan's new power is mastery of the wind. The scene shifts to the guild office. Jahan is totally confused, asking what just happened. Sitting on the sofa, Kim explains everything. Jahan asks if he truly made a contract with an elemental. She nods, confirming it. Kim explains that Sylph controls the raw power of wind. She also mentions that Sylph actually had a contract with her late mother, wondering why it picked Jahan. He hesitates, saying he cannot accept this, asking if there is any way to break the contract. Kim drops the bad news: it is impossible. Once Sylph chooses a master, the bond is absolute. She reveals the only way to break the contract is if the master dies. Jahan is left standing in total shock. Jahan feels totally overwhelmed, asking what he is supposed to do next. Kim crosses her legs, giving him a teasing smile as she stands up, congratulating. Kim congratulates Jahan on joining Epic, asking if he looked at other guilds. He tells her straight up, he never considered anyone else. Jahan only wanted Epic. Instantly, Kim turns bright red. Smirking, she praises his excellent judgment. She promises to help him master his wind spirit. But Jahan is too eager. He wants to test his new powers immediately. He instantly channels a green orb in his hand. Time for combat. He is ready to hit a high-level monster zone. Behind them, a massive blue dome glows, marking zones ranked 5-1. Naturally, the monsters inside match that difficulty rank. The duo heads right in. Grip the sword, look up. Jahan is ready to explore his full potential. He announces their destination, the rank 5 monster area in Bucheon. Feeling confident in his overpowered skills, Jahan knows this is the perfect test. But Kim looks nervous, pretty nervous actually. Jahan asks what is wrong. She sheepishly admits she has never actually trained in a monster zone before. Jahan is completely shocked, demanding to know why she kept that a secret. Kim confesses that, as a top guild leader, it is pretty embarrassing to admit. Stepping past the barrier, Jahan decides he will take the lead this time. Weapon in hand, with Kim clutching her staff behind him, they move forward. They navigate carefully through piles of debris left behind by past battles. Jahan asks Kim to quickly scan their surroundings for any active threats. She asks for a second, checking her radar before reporting what she sees. The target is a cockatrice nesting right in this ruined sector. An overturned truck scattered the beast offspring here 2 weeks ago. Jahan draws his blade, smiling at the perfect target practice. Ruin everywhere, total destruction. The atmosphere completely shifts. Honestly, the vibe here is terrifying, a pure war zone where blood spills. Realizing they are entirely alone, Jahan prepares to handle everything himself. He will have to play both frontline tank and damage dealer today. Kim senses danger, tracking sudden movement in a nearby parking lot. Right there, a massive cockatrice is hiding behind an abandoned car. The beast notices them, but refuses to drop its half-eaten meal. Instead, it spreads its wings, unleashing a massive wave of pressure. Brace themselves, fast, both prepare for whatever comes next. Jahan tells Kim to guard his back while he charges head-on. With a single step, the monster's sheer weight shakes the earth. It charges forward, raising a giant claw to crush them instantly. Clang! Jahan raises his sword just in time to block. He grins, realizing he is no longer that weak guy from before. Holding the attack, Jahan screams. He yells out to Kim. Her eyes glow brightly as she begins casting a powerful spell. That wind arrow spell suddenly slams straight into Jahan and the beast. Boom! The explosion blows them apart, shaking the battlefield. The massive creature crashes down, cracking the ground beneath it. Standing back up, Jahan praises her incredibly destructive wind magic. Despite her quirky looks, she actually graduated top of her class at the academy. They get distracted by their own banter, almost missing a flock of extra cockatrices swooping. Kim senses them first, screaming a warning that 3 birds are attacking. From behind, Jahan spins around, his green eye glowing as his ability activates, catching the incoming monsters in the glowing green lines of his power. A danger signal flashes above their heads as Jahan looks at the threats, calling out his sampling skill. Then he asks the system to calculate evasive maneuvers. A window pops up showing the probability of dodging if he drops. As the monster charges straight at him, the only thing he does is crouch. The window confirms an 82% success rate. Looking at his hand, he immediately conjures that same glowing green sphere from before, activating his new haste skill. In a flash, every bird in the area is taken down. He passes right through them without taking a single scratch, leaving severed monster heads on the ground. With his sword raised, he looks back to see what his brand new abilities can do. Kim is utterly shocked by what she just saw, noting he managed to use Sylph's abilities with perfect precision, pointing out it has been less than a single day since he got them, wondering how this is even possible. While he strikes a pretty cool pose, Seha asks if he is some kind of genius. Jahan puts his sword away, calling out to Seha as he grabs some feathers for loot, promising her they are going to farm endlessly now. But while he is crouched, he realizes this is the perfect chance to test his powers. Suddenly, his skill flares up again. Something is still wrong, he snaps around, screaming at Seha to look behind her right now. Another monster appears behind her, and trust me, this one is massive compared to the others. The tension skyrockets as the beast unleashes a heavy strike right at Seha. A massive impact echoes, but Jahan manages to grab her just in time, keeping her from getting crushed, holding Seha in his arms, safe. Behind the beast, he asks his airbag waifu if she is okay. She says she is fine. Both draw their weapons, wondering why on earth this Monster is even here. Jahan looks closely, realizing it is a mutant. His eyes glow green again as his skill activates once more. A system. Interface flashes, crunching the numbers on flight. Probability, while a blinking danger sign appears over the mutant. Bird Jahan steps in front of Seha, asking her to stall the beast for just 1 minute. She is confused, asking what his plan is, but he is already sprinting toward danger, promising to make this quick. The creature charges up its talons with strange energy, diving straight at him with open beak and wings wide open. As those deadly claws swoop down, Jahan grips his blade and yells for Seha to fire. From the back line, Seha unleashes her magic, hitting it with slow wind. The spell works, binding the monster in place just long enough for Jahan to close the distance. The bird snaps at him, trying desperately to land a hit, but the magic makes it way too sluggish. Jahan crashes down from above, driving his sword down to slam the beast into the dirt, though. The spell cracks. Right as Jahan moves in for the kill, the magic shatters completely. The beast breaks free instantly, reacting just in time to defend its body. It is a tense standoff. The bird snaps its beak, but Jahan swings his blade. In that split second, the harsh insults of his past teammates echo, his head especially being called dead weight. But then, snap, the creature's beak snaps shut on empty air. His system interface shifts from green to an aggressive red. Jahan triggers Wind Cutter, and in a single blink, the bird is diced into neat chunks of meat. Jahan floats gently back down as the battlefield fades. The camera pans down to show a pair of legs standing nearby. We pan up to see a massive, muscular guy sporting a loud Hawaiian shirt, looking pretty impressed. He remarks that he had no clue another powerful elementalist was running around here. Meet Doha Hyun, the skilled Korean earth elementalist. Suddenly, the scene shifts over to a completely different location, a ruined city buried in heavy gloom. Howling wind rips through the wreckage as a massive building crumbles into dust. Suddenly, the ground explodes. A massive beast with glowing red eyes violently bursts out, followed by a pack of armored worms. Doha leaps straight into the fray, loudly taunting the monsters to come get him. He fires a giant blue energy blast, activating his provocation skill, violently smashing one of the giant worms just as it tries burrowing into the earth. The direct hit triggers a massive explosion that violently rocks the entire area. But despite that massive direct hit, the big guy is struggling to keep the monster pinned down. Doha looks back over his shoulder, screaming for Seon Lim to strike quickly because his grip is slipping fast. Reacting instantly, Seon Lim shifts into her a battle stance. Watching the muscle-bound tank struggle with the beast, she announces that she knows exactly how to handle this. Locking onto her target, she unleashes her spell Chain of Thunder. A huge electric current instantly rips through the group of giant worms, forcing them all to convulse in intense pain. Satisfied, Seon Lim watches with absolute satisfaction as the creatures twitch before suddenly bursting into tiny pieces. When the dust settles, the air still crackles with intense static electricity. Clutching her massive magic staff, she immediately begins to brag, saying she honestly cannot believe her guild was actually terrified of such weak monsters. Doha is not amused. He sternly warns her to watch her aim next time because she almost fried him alongside the monsters. She quickly fires back, telling Doha to stop whining and maybe hit the gym. Doha rolls his eyes, muttering his complaints, and tells her to start moving, but before they can walk away, a hidden worm lunges and snares her. Panicking instantly, she frantically screams out for backup. Out of habit, she looks for Jahan to rescue her, but then the cold reality hits. Jahan is gone from the guild forever. No one is left to watch her back. Just as terrifying dread takes over, a figure tears through the sky, crashing directly into the remaining monster with a heavy, crushing blow. Seon Lim is shocked as the dust clears. We see Guts, the fierce, red-haired warrior who just made the save. He strikes a cool, confident pose, resting on his sword like it was nothing. Seon Lim calls his name, sighing with immense relief that she is alive. The camera slowly pans across the desolate battlefield, which is now littered with the corpses of giant worms. Slaughtered by the Kairos Guild, Lim and Doha lean against a low wall. Gasping for air, sitting there exhausted, she complains about being completely drained. The big guy frowns, complaining that these beasts felt completely different, almost like they were top-tier mutants. Lim completely disagrees, insisting they were nothing but weak trash mobs, but right then, Guts steps in to shut down their excuses, claiming there was absolutely nothing strange about them at all. They were just giant worms, clenching his fists. In pure anger, Guts demands some answers. He punches the wall. Frustration, asking why they struggled so hard to defeat basic enemies. The big guy and Lim just stammer, trying to find some weak excuse. But then a dark shadow looms right behind them. They turn around, completely frozen with fear. It is Mia Lai. She is covered head to toe in blood, looking like a literal nightmare. Gripping her daggers and glaring, with a cold, murderous look. She calmly announces that District 2 is fully cleared. Guts spins around, shouting her name, reminding her that he specifically warned her not to overdo it. Veins pop on his forehead as he sternly warns her that nobody will be there to protect her if she gets into serious trouble. She stares back. She fires back, snapping that she knows the situation and does not need a lecture. Meanwhile, the tank mutters Jahan's name, wondering where the guy is now. Since nobody has seen him since he got kicked out, that immediately triggers Guts. He throws his hands up in pure rage, yelling at them to stop being lazy. He storms off, shouting that Jahan was nothing but useless dead weight. Meanwhile, let's check in on our main guy over in the ruins. Jahan stands there, radiating a wild, overwhelming aura as he cultivates. Behind him, Siha is literally trembling in complete disbelief. She watches his massive power overflowing. Her mind is racing because Jahan just soloed a mutant monster all by himself, leaving her wondering what he is. Jahan looks incredibly confident in his new abilities, staring toward the horizon. With his signature glowing green eye, someone is watching. A mysterious stranger with a backpack is quietly walking toward Jahan and Siha. The stranger wonders if those two actually killed that mutant by themselves. He flashes a creepy, sinister smile. This is his lucky day. Siha spots the sliced-up beast and runs over to Jahan, asking if he's okay. He is hurt, but before answering, Jahan collapses face first into the dirt. Siha panics, diving to catch him before he lands. She throws her staff aside and cradles him, begging the guy to say something, anything. She is terrified that he is about to die and leave her completely stranded. She screams his name in panic. Suddenly, Jahan slowly opens his eyes. With a creepy grin and totally lifeless eyes, he whispers about endless farming. Siha's worry instantly turns into complete and utter disgust. He is just obsessed. Realizing he is totally fine, she drops him flat on the hard ground. She is highly annoyed that she actually wasted her tears worrying about him. Sitting there, Siha points out the obvious. That mountain of fresh meat is way too heavy for them to carry alone. Jahan agrees. Right then, the creepy stalker from earlier steps out of the shadows. Suddenly, a voice chimes in from behind, claiming he can handle that exact problem. Sliding off his ski goggles, he greets Siha and Jahan with a grin. Keeping his eyes closed like a classic anime character, he introduces himself. His real name is Sam Jang, but everyone calls him Sashimi, a professional monster cleaner. Siha looks totally confused, never knowing such a job even existed. Jahan quickly fills her in, explaining that these specialists are highly trained pros. They focus entirely on butchering and safely hauling away valuable monster loot. But Jahan is far from naive. He asks Sashimi what a cleaner is doing in this danger zone. Sashimi has an answer locked and loaded, entirely unfazed by the sudden questioning. He explains that his startup has to hustle much harder than the big companies to survive. He politely asks if he can clean up all the cockatrice carcasses left behind. Seha breathes a sigh of relief, thrilled that help arrived at the perfect moment. But Jahan remains completely silent, his instincts telling him something is off. Sashimi casually leans against his massive bag, waiting for their final answer. He has no clue Jahan is already profiling him as a major threat. Snapping on his gloves, Sashimi says he needs to inspect the goods first. He touches the dead beasts and whistles, noting the quality is top tier. The cuts are incredibly clean, meaning they can fetch an absolute premium for this stuff. Hearing this, Seha is practically vibrating with pure excitement. She immediately starts daydreaming about moving into a much bigger, nicer apartment. Meanwhile, Sashimi flashes a dark, greedy grin that goes completely unnoticed by her. He assures them they can keep all the money from the monster meat. But as he speaks, his hand slowly creeps toward a glowing purple stone on the ground. He snatches it, thinking he is being incredibly slick with his little trick. His plan: leave them the worthless scraps while he pockets the real treasure. That stone is a rare mana crystal, dropped only by rare mutants and worth a fortune. But before he can slip it away, the atmosphere suddenly shifts. Jagged rocks begin levitating, tightly wrapping themselves around Sashimi's body. He panics instantly, while Seher and Jahan immediately drop into tense combat stances. They are totally blindsided, while Sashimi is already pinned down by the stone. Terrified, he screams for help, offering to hand over the crystal right now. He begs them to just let him go, but then a chilling voice echoes nearby. The speaker calmly remarks that this is exactly why he despises dirty swindlers. He asks the thief if he ever learned that stealing is wrong. Seha and Jahan watch in absolute shock as a massive, muscular newcomer steps forward. Dressed in a bright Hawaiian shirt, he runs a hand through his hair, veins bulging. He coldly declares that the rare crystal belongs to him. Seha steps forward. She immediately recognizes him, asking if he is really Doha from the famous Dice Guild. She wonders what a top hero is doing here, but Jahan remains completely unimpressed. Jahan clutches the glowing crystal tight, firmly snapping that this prize belongs to Epic, not Doha. He demands to know if a top hero is really robbing rookies. Doha calmly replies that the association personally ordered him to secure the mutant's crystal. The two glare at each other, Jahan's eyes starting to glow a bright green. He coldly asks why he should care about whatever the association orders. Instantly, his ability activates, throwing up screens to calculate his odds of winning. Doha puts his hands behind his back and sighs, saying Jahan completely misunderstood him. Jahan blinks, and in that split second, Doha completely vanishes from plain sight. Instantly, Doha reappears right behind him, whispering that this was never a question. It was an order. Suddenly, Jahan gets slapped hard, wondering how Doha moved so fast. Zero reaction time. Caught off guard, Jahan finds himself completely cornered. His face is about to kiss the dirt as the guy in flip-flops presses down. He shoves Jahan headfirst into the ground, repeating that he never asked for permission. Jahan looks up with a glare, showing he is ready to fight back. Doha looks down, calling Jahan his new elementalist before slamming him down again. He drives Jahan's head into the floor. Sashimi watches in pure horror. Out of all the heroes in the world, they just had to run into the absolute worst one. And believe me, this guy is bad news. Meet Doha, owner of the Dice Guild. He stands as one of the top 5 heroes in the country, wielding massive power. As the sole Earth Elementalist, he is basically a hero with near-divine, overwhelming strength. Si-hei raises her staff, screaming at Jahan to get out of the way. But Doha warns her instantly, saying it would be much smarter to stay out of this. He adds that one wrong move will turn Jahan from a promising rookie into a crushed bug. Si-hei realizes she is totally helpless, pouting because she knows he is not bluffing. Humiliated and absolutely furious, Jahan slams his hands hard against the ground. He glares up, asking if Doha seriously thinks he can kill him here. Jahan is completely enraged, screaming that Doha is the one about to die. Jahan triggers his wind bomb ability, unleashing a massive blast to throw Doha backward. Doha manages to block the direct hit, but the pure force still sends him flying. As he is dragged across the ground, he wonders what the hell just happened. He was certain he had crushed Jahan's head into the dirt just a second ago. Doha realizes this kid always has a clever trick hidden up his sleeve. Jahan struggles to stand up, and Doha instantly figures out how he survived. Jahan summoned his elemental at the last split second to absorb the heavy blow. Not only that, but he hid the spirit to prepare a surprise counterattack. Though battered, Jahan stands tall. Doha laughs, calling him a pretty amusing guy. Suddenly, Jahan's special ability activates again, popping up to calculate the battle odds. The result is absolutely terrifying, a 95% probability of death. Looking at Doha, Jahan has to face a very harsh, brutal truth. He poured all his mana into that last blast, yet Doha is barely scratched. Jahan accepts that rank 1 heroes are truly on a completely different level. Doha calmly dusts himself off, and Jahan knows there is no winning this right now. The muscular titan in flip-flops stomps the ground, calling out to his rookie. He says the score is tied at 1 hit each, asking who starts round 2. Instead of jumping back into the fight, Jahan tosses the mana crystal straight to him. He tells Doha that he won this round and can keep the prize. Doha catches it but looks pretty furious at the kid's dismissive attitude. He asks if Jahan honestly thinks he can just give up and walk away. Jahan retorts that the crystal was the only thing Doha wanted from the start. He has absolutely zero intention of fighting, so Jahan plays his final trump card. He cites Article 38, Section 9 of the Hero Law, stating Doha is legally obligated. To accept his surrender, Doha gets annoyed, grumbling that things were just getting good. Suddenly, a massive noise interrupts the tense standoff as Doha looks back, noting that someone arrived right on cue. Above them, too. Helicopters appear in the sky. Clutching the crystal, Doha sighs, muttering that the extras from his guild finally showed up. Siha, with her highly distracting assets, points out that those massive choppers belong to the Hero Association. A woman leans out from the helicopter and yells at Doha, scolding him for wandering off. Alone again, the guy in flip-flops flashes the mana crystal and tells her he just had some quick business to handle, complaining that she is already being annoying. Doha looks at the young kid, warning him that next time nobody will save him, demanding his name. The protagonist replies that he is Jahan Yu of the epic guild. Doha repeats the guild name with absolute sarcasm before dropping some advice, telling them to surpass rank 4 and advance in the exam. Looking at the hero, Doha mentions he might actually recommend him. Jahan is confused and asks why, but Doha simply says because he wants to, and just like that, the helicopters lift off and leave the area. Flying away, Doha asks his assistant if she heard him, telling her to put in a recommendation for that curvy girl. And the main character, his assistant, immediately argues back, pointing out that the exam is in just 2 days and she cannot recommend random people. She adds that their guild has not even completed the proper formation process yet, but then she freezes. Noticing a wound on Doha's arm, she wonders how on earth he got injured. Doha simply smiles, saying this is going to be incredibly fun. Cut back to Epic headquarters, where Sashimi is on his knees begging for his life, but the duo tells him to save the apology and prepare for a beating. Sashimi begs for just 1 minute to explain. He mentions overhearing them talking about the rank 4 exam. He notes that the deadline is in 2 days and asks if they really expect to pass with their current equipment. He points at their gear, calling it total junk, and saying they are asking to fail. Sashimi offers a quick deal, claiming he knows a secret place to upgrade their gear. He promises that if Siha and Jahan are not satisfied, they can beat him to a pulp. Afterwards, Siha and Jahan trade looks, considering the idea before deciding. To trust him one last time, telling him to lead the way, the scene shifts to a dusty weapon shop. Sashimi opens the door while the other two wait behind him. He looks around nervously, saying there is nobody there. Siha gets annoyed and asks the cleaner if he tricked them again, but Sashimi swears he did not. Suddenly, a voice pops up right behind them, demanding to know who they are, the mysterious person. Chuckles, saying the shop is closed today, and asks what they want. Someone in the background points out the obvious. That short guy is definitely a dwarf. Blacksmith. It turns out dwarves are a species famous for their insane skills at the forge, crafting S-rank swords that make them super popular with high-level heroes. Siha stares at the little guy, admitting she has never seen a real dwarf before. Jahan agrees. She turns to thank Sashimi for actually hooking them up with a legit contact, but the cleaner already pulled a disappearing act and left. This makes the blacksmith offended. He insists he is not a dwarf, calling the idea ridiculous and claiming to be human. He has actually spent his whole life in Korea. Our duo is absolutely stunned to learn this. He is indeed Korean. Siha immediately accuses him of lying, claiming anyone can see he is a dwarf. Jahan is highly skeptical as well, demanding to see his ID while the smith asks if they are some kind of comedy duo. Still, he hands over his card, which proves he is legally not a dwarf. Looking closely at the ID, though, the two realize he is telling the truth. Jahan squints hard, asking if he is seriously only 27 years old because the photo looks absolutely nothing like him. They assume the ID is forged, so Jahan tells Siha to call the cops. She gets angry, realizing Sashimi probably tricked them again, and agrees to call, but the blacksmith completely ignores their little dramatic outburst. Instead, he notices something interesting and asks to check out Jahan's sword for a second. Jahan asks why. The smith grabs the blade, inspecting it closely while noting that it has been a very long time since he last saw a weapon with these scratches. He looks up, guessing that Jahan is a wind elementalist. Jahan is totally stunned and asks how he knows that. The smith says any top blacksmith can easily identify a hero's class just by looking at their gear. He adds that unfortunately this current sword is complete trash, never built to handle the intense flow of elemental power. The smith asks for a moment, promising he will craft the ultimate weapon for an elementalist. He soon returns with a sword built to withstand any crazy power. Jahan takes the weapon. The smith proudly reveals the sword's name is Hoyal Nam. Siha bluntly comments that it is a pretty terrible name for a sword. Time skips forward, and you know what that means. The exam day is finally here. Someone opens a door handle. The busty girl and our protagonist arrive together at the crowded exam venue, which is totally packed. Siha comments on the massive crowd in his head. Jahan notes that it has been a really long time since his last rank 4 exam, especially after getting kicked out of the Kairos Guild. Suddenly, someone behind him whispers the word loser. As Jahan walks past, bystanders start gossiping. They whisper about his expulsion from Kairos, unable to believe his sheer nerve. One bystander even says that in his shoes, they would have retired out of shame. Siha leans in close and whispers, asking him if the crowd is trashing him. Jahan simply tells her to block them out and focus on the trial ahead. He thinks back to Doha and feels relieved that nobody here knows about Butchin. But right now, he needs to block the noise and do his absolute best. Suddenly, a roaring voice booms out, commanding everyone to shut up. The angry guy yells that they are making way too much noise for a bunch of losers taking a pathetic rank 4 exam, telling them to wake up. He scans the room, calling them completely mediocre, declaring that nobody here is special. He walks right up to Jahan, gets in his face, and barks that he is not up to standard. This jerk is Hyun Suk Bang, also known as Seong Bang. Jahan's eyes start to glow. In his head, he is furiously cursing Doha. Seong Bang demands to know if Jahan agrees with him. A system window pops up. To calculate the overall pass rate, Jahan realizes Doha set him up and he only Recommended him to make sure he would fail. Cut to Doha, who is chilling. Opening a cookie when his assistant walks in, she confirms she sent the recommendations he requested. He is impressed by the speed, but she looks deeply confused, having found something weird. She asks Doha why he picked Seong. Seong Bang is taking the lead as the evaluator, and absolute chaos immediately breaks out. He stands right in the middle of the arena, waiting for 3 random contestants to charge. Staring them down, he lectures them for rushing in blindly without any real strategy. Or even knowing his weakness, he shouts that it is showtime, sending all 3 of them flying with effortless ease. He insults them directly, calling them mere amateurs. As they hit the floor, Seong Bang stands alone. Suddenly, a system window announces that Group 12 is disqualified. Behind a one-way mirror, 3 observers are closely watching. One of them mutters in annoyance, questioning if this is just too harsh. The female observer worries that at this rate, absolutely nobody will pass. Then we see a pretty brainless evaluator named Han Seo Kim, who behaves with pure arrogance, saying rank 5 heroes are basically just average civilians anyway. Another evaluator, Shin Oh, nervously wonders what they are supposed to tell the bosses. Finally, a hooded man tells them to focus on the last group. His name is John Yu Seal. Someone mentions they finally get to witness the epic guild in action. The arrogant guy nods, knowing this kid is the exact recruit Doha personally recommended. He points out that everyone else in this group belongs to the Dice Guild. Siha and the main character, Jahan, walk toward the exam room. Someone in the crowd whispers that these 2 are about to get a brutal reality check. Gripping their weapons, they finally step into the arena. The incredibly arrogant evaluator comments that Jahan looks pretty tough, but quickly criticizes his lack of flexibility, noting that Seong Bang is a squad leader for a reason. Suddenly, the system interface pops up, welcoming them to the rank 4 exam and laying out the rules. They have exactly 5 minutes. To pass, they just need to successfully defend themselves or make the evaluator surrender. The curvy recruit panics, asking how on earth 2 rookies are supposed to land a hit on a pro. Seong Bang flares his intense aura. Jahan analyzes him, wondering how the guy fought all those groups alone without taking a single scratch. Jahan turns to Siha and tells her to cover him, just like they did in the MA zone. She nods in agreement as Jahan activates his buffs, warning her this fight is going to be much tougher than simple monsters. The system announces the start, and instantly Seong Bang launches a cheap shot, delivering a brutal kick straight to Jahan's chest. Jahan barely manages to block it just in time, complaining that attacking right at the bell is unfair. But wait, a sudden explosion rocks the arena. Siha finds herself in deep trouble. Seong Bang rushes her, aiming a punch that is about to give her some free dental surgery, but his massive fist hits something incredibly hard. It is not her face but a protective barrier. Seong Bang is confused, wondering how she blocked that attack. Looking to the side, he realizes it wasn't her at all. It was Jahan, protecting her from a distance. Jahan is on the ground, but he made the save. Seong Bang grins and admits that Doha's recommendation wasn't just a bad joke. After all, without hesitating, Seong Bang stomps right on Jahan's chest. Then he starts running, gripping his wooden sword and charging forward. Jahan scrambles to his feet and they start trading blows at high speed. Seong Bang taunts him, saying the strength gap is massive, claiming that even with a simple wooden stick, he can easily crush them. Jahan's eye starts glowing, knowing he must create distance immediately. He triggers a wind bomb, blasting the evaluator straight backward. Seong Bang executes a smooth backflip to land safely. He clicks his tongue in annoyance. He grumbles that Jahan is a wind mage, a total pain to deal with. But Jahan is already moving. He triggers his stealth and hasty skills. He reappears right behind Seong Bang, who instantly senses the incoming ambush. In the observation room, someone wonders why this guy was even chosen. They point out that his presence makes passing the exam practically impossible. The assistant agrees this is terrible news for Epic, but Doha explains the decision. Apparently, Xiangbang is the only active swordsman who can slice through wind. Down in the arena, Xiangbang grins wildly and activates his rapid attack art. Cutting whirlwind, the blow sends Jahan flying, coughing up blood on the floor. The evaluator stands tall, while Jahan is left struggling on the ground. He realizes he cannot fight at full strength while still recovering from earlier battles. Fighting that mutant and Doha drained him, and his crappy sword is eating mana. Xiangbang looks down, asking if this pathetic display is truly his best. Did Jahan only get here because of Mr. Yoon's personal recommendation? Xiangbang prepares to disqualify the boy, but suddenly Syoha leaps in. Get back, she screams for Jahan to move as her magic blasts Xiangbang away. Gaining some breathing room, she stands protectively before Jahan, clutching her staff. She promises to handle the rest. She cannot keep hiding behind him forever. Xiangbang scoffs. He has zero interest in playing around with weaklings. Syoha snaps back that she is anything but weak, pulling her hair back. Revealing her pointed ears, she proudly introduces herself as the elf, Syoha Kim. Xiangbang just yawns. He already knew that. Can a mere mage even brawl? He launches a rapid flurry of sword, strikes directly at the elf girl. She simply closes her eyes, declaring that elves walk the path of mana. Incredibly, she dodges every strike. Now it is her turn to attack. She casts Cutting Wind, but Xiangbang laughs it off as a basic spell. But wait, he spots a glowing magic circle materializing directly behind him. He scoffs at the obvious sneak attack until two more circles suddenly appear. Confused, he wonders how a rank 5 can launch multiple spells at once. She is actually casting 7 spells simultaneously, completely locking him in place. He admits she trapped him, then a massive explosion engulfs the area. Syoha shields her face, confident there is no way he survived that. But as the thick smoke clears, Xiangbang is still standing there, unscathed. He dusts himself off, admitting her clever plan to trap him was actually decent. He praises her strategy for using the tight space, but then a sudden shift. Xiangbang teleports right behind her. Too slow, he whispers. Syoha is completely shocked. He took all 7 spells and is still standing. Xiangbang ignores her, claiming he was only waiting for Jahan to act. Gripping his sword tight, he mocks Jahan. Arrogance will cost him the win. He sneers that Jahan is finished, but Jahan suddenly realizes something crucial. He was totally wrong. The sword was not actually draining his energy. Jahan himself was the problem, recklessly wasting his mana like an amateur. Time to switch tactics. He gathers a tiny amount of mana, compressing it into a single point. Finally, he triggers his ultimate. One sword moves. We immediately cut to a fancy office packed with trophies. A knock sounds at the door. Standing near the window, a young man tells them to step inside. A blonde, blue-eyed man walks in to report on the status of Squad Leader Guts. The boss just murmurs a reply, asking how Gang Yu is adapting. To the squad, the blonde assistant clarifies if he means Gang Yu Kim, and the boss nods. He wants updates on the rookie who replaced Jahan after his expulsion. Meet the man standing at the window, Jong Sa Park, the owner of Cairo's guild. The blonde assistant admits there are stability issues, but they are adjusting. Well enough, Jong Sa confidently states that Gang Yu will soon surpass the protagonist, but the blonde assistant looks nervous, saying he has something else to report. He drops a massive bomb. Jahan has advanced to rank 4. The boss is completely baffled, asking what that trash protagonist did too. Manage that, remembering he barely scraped by before. The blonde assistant explains that apparently Duha personally recommended him. Jong Sa asks him to repeat that in absolute disbelief, and just like that, back at the arena, Jahan is standing tall and looking down at Xiangbang. Meanwhile, the evaluator is beaten and battered on the floor. Xiangbang asks how a rookie like him caught Mr. Yun's attention. Sighing, he finally concedes and admits that Jahan won. He mutters that Duha conveniently forgot to mention the kid was an elementalist. Later, the duo takes a breather. Waihu smiles and asks how he mastered the elemental power so quickly. Jahan shrugs, saying he has no idea, but deep down he realizes that the intense battle actually forced him to improve his control. He wonders if this was Duha's plan all along, turning to Siha. He praises her, saying she did a great job distracting the evaluator. She modestly replies it was nothing. Jahan grins, telling her the good news. They officially passed the battle evaluation. However, Jahan reminds her that their celebrations are quite premature. They still need to pass the interview. They sit down, watching other candidates leave the room looking completely dejected. Finally, a voice calls out for Epic Guild, announcing they are up next. One of the evaluators notes that this squad looks well prepared. Another man adds that their battle had plenty of interesting moments. Siha and Jahan walk into the room. A polite examiner starts speaking, saying that if nobody objects, they should get started, but immediately, someone interrupts and says they should fail them. A naysayer starts criticizing the tank, calling Jahan arrogant and doubting his ability to protect anyone in real danger. This guy is Dangali, member of the Warriors Guild. He declares it is absurd to let this squad pass, and another voice agrees that they should be disqualified on the spot. Someone else adds that at this rate, nobody will pass today. Jahan wonders why they are shouting so loud, figuring they are just trying to intimidate them to leave a lasting impression. The polite examiner ignores the shouting, thanks them for coming, and tells them to relax. Siha introduces them as members of Epic. Realizing he messed up the paperwork, the polite examiner quickly shuffles the documents in front of him, noting that they were the only ones who actually won their battle, calling it quite impressive. Jahan sarcastically replies that it was nothing but pure luck, while Siha plays. Jahan accepts their gratitude, but the dark-haired interviewer cuts in to remind them their victory is already decided. No need to argue anymore. Suddenly, the weird-looking panelist throws a bizarre question straight at Siha. He wonders if she can even see past those bangs, telling her to tuck them back. She quietly obliges, clearing her face. Instantly, the men in the room gasp in surprise. And get this, her secret is out. He points a finger, loudly declaring she is an elf, licking his lips like a total creep. He claims he thought she was a pureblood, mocking her with a fake apology. The dark-haired man snaps, but the creep just shrugs, claiming it is just a bad habit of his. Then he casually tells Jahan to stop giving him that terrifying, murderous glare. Siha gently reassures Jahan that it is fine, but her partner can only sigh in frustration. He knows this jerk is not the real issue they are facing today. The examiner demands to resume. Jahan realizes this bait was exactly the reaction the guy wanted. The main interviewer quickly shifts focus, asking a direct question about Siha's father in Kyoto. She confirms it proudly. Their victory was entirely backed by her father's research data. The main interviewer is completely stunned, left absolutely speechless by her confident and precise answer. He admits that for a brand new two-person guild, they have accomplished something truly wild. But that creepy examiner is not done. He mentions that in his 10 years as a hero, he has never seen this. A half-elf running an active guild is completely unheard of in all his years of service. He narrows his eyes maliciously. If an army of elves ever invaded Korea, whose side would she take? Siha freezes in absolute shock, totally shattered by the sudden and heavy hostility of his words. The other interviewer looks completely lost, but Jahan has had enough. He stands up, slamming his hands down. He asks if mocking people is standard procedure for the Warriors Guild. Their goal was never to test skills, but to humiliate his leader in front of everyone. The other panelists watch in horror as the train wreck unfolds. But the creepy guy just smugly fires back. The dark-haired interviewer tries to stop them, but Jahan is completely done with this farce. If his guild is going to be insulted, they do not even want to pass. The panel desperately begs them to calm down, stating this is no place for a brawl. Siha leaves the room completely disheartened, feeling like everything is ruined. She is certain they are doomed. Outside the epic headquarters, the gorgeous guild leader sits alone, quietly sipping some juice. Jahan walks over to apologize. But Siha just smiles softly, thanking him for standing up for her back there. She admits that in similar situations, absolutely nobody has ever stood up for her like that. Jahan notices her eyes glued to her phone, constantly refreshing a single web page. He asks why she is torturing herself with this, worried about her fragile state of mind. Jahan apologizes once more, but then Siha points at her phone. Suddenly she gasps, the results are live. Advancing to rank 4, both of them freeze, staring at each other in disbelief. They cannot believe their eyes. Meanwhile, back in the interview room, the other judges demand to know why the ugly duckling made that choice, asking if he is sure. Confirming his decision, he apologizes for the previous drama and admits he crossed the line. He claims he was simply testing them out of pure curiosity, then tosses an apple up into the air and catches it. Uttering the name Epic, he wonders aloud how far those two can climb, though mentally he sneers at Jahan and Siha as a pair of incredibly arrogant brats. He secretly wants them to climb higher, but his intentions are far from kind. Honestly, this twisted judge is plotting their absolute downfall later on. Meanwhile, the two players sitting in front of their computer screen are completely stunned, wondering how they actually passed. Soon, the focus shifts to the rank 2 area in Paju City, where a sleek bus pulls up. Massive crowd of cheering fans and reporters are waiting. Then, the doors swing open, and a figure steps out. A reporter quickly announces that Hyundi, leader of the Kairos Guild squad, has arrived, begging Mr. Kim to face the flashing cameras. Desperate fans scream their love for Guts as security guards desperately struggle to hold back the pushing crowd. Seeing this, Guts instantly turns on his fake charm, smiling warmly and saying that such extreme behavior is not necessary. He thanks the crowd for showing up, gently asking them to stay behind the line for their safety as Guts and his squad enter the MA zone. People call him a true knight, wishing them luck, but the moment Guts steps inside the barrier, his gentle mask completely slips. He immediately complains that those worthless worms outside were making his ears bleed with all that noise. His muscular teammate notes the crowd was even bigger this time. Annoyed, Guts grumbles and asks how they always find their location every single time. A voice behind Guts chimes in, asking if he noticed that girl standing by the entrance, claiming he almost barfed just by looking at her. This crude guy is introduced as Gangyu Kim. He quickly shifts topics, asking what kind of girls Guts prefers. Guts simply replies that he only likes attractive ones. Smirking, Gangyu promises to call some pretty girls later, inviting Guts to hit the club tonight. Suddenly, Sion Lim cuts in, reminding them that Mia Lei is standing right there, snapping at them to stop talking trash. Gangyu pivots smoothly, suggesting that Sion Lim should tag along to the club as well. She scoffs and asks if he really thinks she would visit a cheap place like that, but Gangyu knows exactly which buttons to push. He smoothly mentions that several famous models are eager to meet her. Predictably, she falls for it instantly, getting incredibly excited and promising to invite all of her handsome friends too. Gangyu thinks to himself how absurdly easy it is to manipulate these complete fools with a tiny push. They are all dancing directly in the palm of his hand, but looking at Mia Lei, he hits a total wall. She is completely different, and he cannot figure out what she is thinking. Mia Lei suddenly notices him staring and asks what is wrong. He quickly looks away, claiming it is absolutely nothing, but mentally decides he needs to keep a very close eye on her. Suddenly, Guts hears approaching footsteps and turns around to find 3 strangers standing nearby. The one leading them greets Heian Kim notes that it has been quite some time since he last ran into Guts inside an MA zone. Guts agrees it has been a few months, while Scarface asks about their missing member. Guts acts confused, asking who, so Scarface clarifies he means the guy who carried the bags. Lying through his teeth as usual, Guts claims that Porter quit, pointing to his new replacement. Gang Yu introduces himself as the support, but Scarface looks highly skeptical. He calls it a real shame if true, making Kim instantly wonder why he says that. Scarface explains that Jahan saved their lives a year ago, praising the Porter's incredible movements. They were totally on another level, leaving everyone clueless how he pulled it off while carrying bags. Scarface adds that if Jahan ever needs a guild, his doors are always open. He would be absolutely thrilled to recruit him before both parties finally say their goodbyes. They part, a furious Guts is asked if Jahan was really that great. Gang Yu scoffs, claiming he only heard that Jahan was just useless dead weight. He adds the guy just blocked their path and Scarface is overhyping him. While his teammate keeps trash-talking, Guts barks an order demanding his giant sword. A wild dinosaur beast suddenly attacks, prompting Guts to demand his weapon. He ignites his blade with blazing fire, leaping toward the beast while thinking of Jahan. Now we cut to a panicked crowd, where a woman gasps in total disbelief. People scramble to escape, leaving behind their bags as a guard yells. He warns everyone that this is now a rank 4 danger zone and to run. Citizens panic over dropping property values, while others fear losing their homes. Amid the chaos, Jahan and Kim arrive on the scene, checking if they have the right spot. Kim thinks so, and Jahan confirms they are in the rank 4 beast territory. Right on cue, a beast leaps. A mutated saber-toothed tiger targets our duo. Charging forward, Jahan calls out to see who immediately starts casting spells. Unsheathing his weapon, Jahan dashes forward to meet the beast head-on. One clean strike, the tiger is sliced perfectly in half, leaving Kim stunned. She admits she thought rank 4 beasts would be a lot tougher than this. Jahan explains that the boss mutant they faced before was just a rare exception. Kim asks how they will carry this massive carcass down, and Jahan has an idea. He suggests calling a cleanup crew. Suddenly, a desperate scream echoes nearby. See who alerts them to a stranded civilian and urges Jahan to move quickly. Jahan finds the voice oddly familiar, as if they have crossed paths before. A figure jumps out, loudly introducing themselves as heroes from the Epic Guild. It is Sashimi. He is desperately crying for help over a tiny kitten. Kim recognizes him on the spot as their former dungeon cleanup guy. They quickly clear the cute threats and see who calls this lucky meeting destiny. When she asks if he agrees, Sashimi admits he only came in to use the restroom. He was totally clueless that the entire building was being locked down. Jahan offers to let it go because Sashimi secured them excellent gear before. See who praises Jahan. She calls him incredibly kind-hearted. Jahan then offers Sashimi an official cleanup spot in their new guild. When Sashimi wonders why he was chosen, Jahan gives him a straight answer. He explains that despite their past troubles, he still trusts him completely. Moved by this, Sashimi proudly promises to handle every single monster corpse. He charges toward the building, shouting that the corpses are in safe hands. See who asks if he is about to trick them again, but Jahan reassures her. He absolutely would not, pointing out they need his work anyway. He suggests they head out now, but suddenly an angry voice screams. They tell the heroes to stop hurting innocent creatures, stop the cruelty. The protester yells out, claiming these monsters deserve respect too. They are living beings just like humans, the crowd bellows. They demand respect for all life. See who asks if they are activists. Jahan explains they belong to the IUPC, an organization for monster rights. They fight for the peaceful coexistence of monsters and humans. And honestly, things are getting pretty out of hand around these dungeon areas lately. See who asks Jahan if he agrees with them. His answer is instant. Absolutely not, he says, calling their entire ideology completely ridiculous. He wonders if they would say that after watching heroes get slaughtered. Nearby, a guard warns the protesters they are not allowed inside. Meanwhile, a bystander mocks the heroes, telling them to save their monster friends. Suddenly, the guard screams that the crowd has broken through the barrier. Protesters cheer as they spot the heroes, yelling not to let them escape. In seconds, Sylph and Jahan are completely surrounded by shouting activists. Jahan cannot believe his eyes. A woman screams for everyone to look. Look at the creatures, she demands, calling the heroes heartless monsters. Another protester apologizes to the beast, calling the active heroes murderers. They yell that fake saviors have no right to kill. Jahan is stunned. He cannot understand their anger and hopes the association steps in soon. That is when Doha makes his grand entrance, telling everyone to move. He asks if they are done talking to the kid. Jahan spins around. Who on earth are you? Jahan demands. Doha just smirks back. He calls himself the guy Jahan hates most, then flicks his wrist. A massive wall of earth erupts. Doha grins, asking what he will do now. With the barrier raised, Doha just stands there watching, talk about a power move. Some know him as the Earth Dragon, while others call him a clown. Out west, they call him the Earthquake Man. He unleashes his aura. He declares his favorite title is Bad Boy. The crowd gasps in terror. It is the bad boy Doha. They wonder what a top-ranked hero is doing here. Jahan mutters to himself, why does this guy always show up now? He loves showing up out of nowhere. Does he have nothing better to do? Doha shouts for the entire crowd to clear out immediately. Leave or go to hell, he warns, calling out a name. An explosion rocks the ground as a dragon materializes. Jahan freezes in shock. He wonders if this creature is actually a real elemental. It is Mew Mew, a Terra elemental. Doha orders it to restrain them. Whips of pure earth shoot forward, catching every single protester. They are lifted high into the air. Jahan tells Sylph they must leave. But someone reminds them that certified heroes cannot just run away. A true hero stays put. Sylph sighs that their hands are tied, while Jahan marvels at Doha. That is some serious power, trapping all those protesters without scratching a single person. Doha then apologizes for the delay. He mentions hearing that Jahan and Sylph officially passed their rank 4 exam, which instantly makes Jahan think back to his brutal fight with that monster. Shaking it off, Jahan thanks Doha sarcastically, calling him a pretty merciful evaluator. Doha just chuckles, admitting Bang is intense. But a good guy deep down. Jahan snaps back, questioning the intense part since Bang literally almost killed them, but Doha explains he knew that surviving that nightmare would make them way stronger. Now, he wonders which of the two is actually stronger. Jahan instantly asks if Doha really came all this way just to fight him. Right then, another voice cuts in, asking if he is indeed Doha. Onlookers start whispering, wondering why he is in a rank 4 zone with this random squad. Sylph points out those guys are actually from other guilds. Doha sighs, complaining they are drawing way too much attention. Time to move. The scene shifts to a massive, bustling construction site crawling with workers. One of them spots Doha, asking why he is slacking off. Doha claims he is just handling some business. Jahan realizes this busy place must be the Dice Guild headquarters, and it is packed with people. Doha explains they are currently expanding their training grounds and apologizes for the chaos. Jahan tells him it is totally fine. Soon, they arrive at the main guild building itself and step inside. Jahan notes how quiet it is, feeling more like a cozy coffee shop than a massive headquarters. It is like all that loud construction outside just completely vanished. Sylph is absolutely amazed, explaining it takes a massive amount of mana to shield a whole building like this. But hey, it is expected from a top guild. When Jahan asks if the shield is actually that crazy, she confirms it, estimating the barrier cost at around 20 billion won. Yeah, you heard that right, Jahan Wonders how a guild could possibly make that kind of cash. Suddenly, a woman appears thanking them for appreciating her hard work. She asks Sihu if she is interested in mana barriers, praising her incredibly accurate cost estimate. She introduces herself as Yi Jiang Park, the vice leader of the Dice Guild. Jahan is stunned, asking if she is really the vice leader. Honestly, Sihu totally mistook her for a simple assistant. Doha asks Yi Jiang if she remembers these two, then tells her to book a meeting room. Yi Jiang Park agrees, but immediately demands to know where Doha has been, pointing out he missed every single meeting, as she pinches his cheek. Doha complains, asking what she thinks she is doing to her guild master. She snaps back that if he wants respect, he needs to stop acting like a kid. Jahan mutters that these two are honestly louder than the construction site outside. After their bickering ends, Jahan and Sihu follow Doha to the room. Doha gets straight to business, asking why they think he brought them here today. Jahan guesses it has something to do with his elemental. Doha confirms he is absolutely right. Suddenly a bright light flashes. A tiny, fox-like dog appears with a soft meow. Doha introduces his partner, Mumu. He asks if they recognize this cute creature from when he cleared the protesters. Jahan is completely speechless, asking if this tiny dog is the same beast that turned into a giant, terrifying dragon. Mumu just grumbles, claiming it is busy. Jahan was helping with construction, but Doha promised the meeting would be quick. Mumu turned to ask why they had guests, as Jahan offered a quick greeting. Sihu, however, was completely charmed by the little dog, while Jahan just wondered what it was actually doing. Doha then asked Jahan to summon his elemental, and Jahan agreed. A glowing green sphere materialized at his call. As it materialized, it floated straight over to the little dog, making Doha remark that he knew Jahan's elemental was wind-based before asking what its name was. Jahan introduced the elemental as Sylph. Doha explained that Sylph was the main reason for their meeting, noting that in his 17 years as an elementalist, Mumu was the only one ever discovered in Korea. Doha added that he had searched Jahan's files and found no mention of elemental abilities. Because of this, Doha figured Jahan must have awakened his elemental powers when he joined Epic, but that timeline made no sense, and honestly, he was right. Jahan explained how he secured a contract with such a powerful wind elemental. Just as Jahan was about to explain, Sihu stepped forward to tell the story instead. She revealed that Jahan's wind elemental actually belonged to someone else before. When Doha asked who, Sihu explained it was her mother, Hath, who was the last person to hold a contract with Sylph. Doha seemed to accept her answer. He admitted he never expected Jahan to contract with Hath's elemental, leaving him speechless. Doha silently thought to himself that elementals were supposed to vanish when their owners died, but apparently he was mistaken. Resting his hand on his chin, Doha decided that even with his doubts, it did not really matter anymore. Doha then decided to explain the real reason for calling them here. Sihu replied she thought it was about Sylph. Doha confirmed that was part of it, but they had two crucial matters to discuss, and Jahan wanted him to get straight to the point. First, the leaders of the Dice Guild wanted to buy Epic. A shocked Sihu immediately asked why. Doha then made his offer, 20 billion won for total control of Epic. Furious, Sihu shot to her feet, demanding to know if he was serious. Doha assured her he was, even offering to raise the price further. He told them they had a choice: stay a two-person guild or let him help them expand and recruit new members. As part of the deal, Doha promised to personally teach Jahan how to master his elemental. He also guaranteed he would not interfere with their squad's activities. Doha then asked Jahan for his thoughts, pointing out how ideal this deal would be for him. Overwhelmed, Sihu admitted the offer was generous, but she was completely caught off guard. Doha suggested they take their time to consider it, but before he could ask for a quick answer, Jahan shuts him down, Talk about absolute confidence, leaving Doha completely stunned by the response. Jahan stated firmly that Epic was not for sale, not now and not ever, leaving Sihu completely speechless. Suddenly, a heavy bag slammed onto the ground. Sashimi arrived from where the activists were held, demanding to know what happened. He announced that he finished his part of the job, but could not find Jahan. Sashimi said excitedly that he was eager to share what he had accomplished with Jahan. The scene then shifts back to the negotiation, where Jahan tells Doha he can double his offer as much as he wants, but it still won't be enough. He boldly declares that, just like Dice, Epic is going to become a massive guild soon. Hearing this, Doha's face instantly sours, right away. Then Sihu, who had been staying completely quiet, finally speaks up and asks Yihun who gave him that authority. As Sihu breaks down crying and grabs Yihun, Doha suddenly bursts into loud laughter, his mocking chuckles echoing through the room. Once he calms down, Doha scoffs that such ambition is far too big for a tiny, two-person guild. Doha admits he never expected Yihun to be so incredibly arrogant, so Yihun turns to leave, saying he has absolute faith in their future. Doha pushes up his glasses, mocking the word faith, and notes that Yihun speaks as if this contract is already signed and done, finding him truly entertaining. With that, Doha pulls the offer, though Sihu tries desperately to remind him that she is the actual guild leader, but gets instantly cut right off. No warning, Doha summons his assistant, returning something that belongs to Epic. He asks if they remember a special stone, presenting the glowing mana crystal harvested from the mutant they defeated earlier. Yihun asks why he is giving this precious crystal back. Doha explains that the association completed its research and he originally planned to hand it over after buying out their guild. Instead, he is returning it now as a friendly gesture between two capable elementalists. Yihun offers his thanks, but he gets cut off immediately. Sylph, who had been playing with the tiny puppy, flies straight toward the mana crystal, crashing right into it. A blinding flash of light fills the room, standing behind Yihun. Doha quietly explains that these crystals are crucial for evolving your summoned elementals. He advises Yihun to gather more if he hopes to grow stronger. Doha adds that the more crystals he collects, the closer Sylph gets to fully materializing her body. Yihun wonders with disbelief if Sylph could really gain a solid physical form. The scene shifts directly to the headquarters of the Korean branch of the IUPC. A customer service worker wraps up a call, asking how she can help next. Suddenly, her professional tone shifts to pure shock. She asks the caller to repeat if their beloved pet cat really transformed into a mutant monster. She tells them not to panic, promising to send a specialized containment team to capture the beast. Meanwhile, a coworker asks how long a promotional poster will take to finish. 3 hours, they reply. Nearby, two women chat, asking about their next volunteer work, which her friend says is probably on the 21st. The woman in blue complains that a random old lady hugged her last time, making her feel uneasy. Her friend in gray suggests it can actually be quite nice, standing near a television broadcast. The woman in blue wishes the public noticed the good deeds they accomplish. She remains confident that with enough patience, everything will eventually shift for the better, adding that every supporter who recognizes their hard work gives her life real meaning. Suddenly, a massive roar startles them, followed by scary growls and scraping claws. The woman in blue whispers "darling" as a saber-toothed tiger appears, and they realize it is feeding time. The woman in gray claims she remembered just in time. The woman in blue asks if she should buy food, but the gray-clothed woman says a single light serving is more than enough. The woman in blue then walks over to a cabinet to see what they have inside, opening it up. Oh no, it is actually a cage holding a tied-up person whom she cheerfully greets. She laughs. She can barely believe this poor old lady is still drawing breath, showing endless resilience, while the other woman mutters about how annoying they are, opening a door, throwing her straight into the tiger cage. The sobbing woman hears Them telling the beast to enjoy its meal, the tiger approaches, it devours her completely, nothing is left, the woman in blue comments on how cute the tiger is, telling it to eat well, before wondering if one victim is really enough, though the woman in gray says that will do. Just then they hear something rustling behind them. A car pulls up outside, and the woman in blue says it looks like the managers have arrived. A stylish man steps out of the car, arms the alarm, and casually greets everyone. His name is Sewing Lim, and he is the branch manager of this IUPC office. Everyone greets him warmly, asking how his latest trip went. He replies that nobody would believe the beautiful creatures he managed to capture, earning him praise as the best. Sewing Lim then asks for their undivided attention, claiming he has great news. Opening a briefcase, he announces their project is finally complete. Sewing Lim pulls out a unique pistol filled with a suspicious liquid, declaring the prototype an absolute success. Is it what they think? Sewing Lim brings up the cockatrices that escaped in Buchan. He explains that their first attempt to create a mutant using a mana crystal failed because the body of the creature just was not strong enough. Additionally, the mutant was nearly impossible to control. Sewing Lim continues, noting that this time will be different, turning his cold gaze toward the tiger before shooting the animal, and promises to make it truly precious. Suddenly, a massive explosion of energy erupts from the tiger cage. The mutated beast now radiates an intense power. Sewing Lim smiles with pure satisfaction. One person starts clapping, and the praise quickly spreads through the group. Staring at his new wild creation, he remarks that he never thought he would witness something so beautiful. The scene then shifts directly to Incheon, a rank 4 area. People are walking around quite peacefully, but then Seiho and Jahan appear. Seiho notes that this area has a strong barrier, unlike the last one. Jahan explains they figured it would take too long to handle those tigers, especially after that messy IUPC incident. Just as Jahan talks about their luck in finding another crystal, Sashimi shows up right behind him, looking completely worn out. Sashimi asks where Jahan was yesterday. Seiho is startled, quickly warning Jahan, but he just greets Sashimi casually. Sashimi complains that Jahan made him carry all those tigers alone and then just disappeared. Jahan apologizes. Sashimi retorts, asking if that is all he gets. Suddenly, Sashimi starts trembling violently. Then just as suddenly he becomes hysterical. Seiho asks what is wrong with him, saying he is acting like a lunatic. Holding up his phone, Sashimi tells them to stay calm until they see the screen. After one look at it, both of them start screaming like absolute maniacs. A thrilled Sashimi announces that the tigers and the cockatrices sold out immediately. Seiho, shocked by all the zeros on the screen, exclaims that it is 500 million won. Sashimi, standing behind them, calls it the grand prize. Seiho drops to her knees. She made the right decision hiring him. Sashimi confidently says that anything he cleans up is guaranteed to turn a massive profit. After their celebration, Sashimi mentions it is time. He wants to renegotiate their contract and demands a 10% fee, but Jahan immediately cuts him off. 4%, that is Jahan's final offer, prompting a furious protest from Sashimi. No way, Jahan completely ignores his rants, shouting the same number over and over. Sashimi tries to bargain down to 8%, but Jahan absolutely refuses to budge. Highway robbery, Sashimi yells in disbelief, but Jahan just stands his ground. He declares 4% is settled, leaving a completely baffled Sashimi arguing with himself. Suddenly, a calm voice of reason cuts in, asking what these two absolute fools are doing. In the background, onlookers whisper that she is back, making a curious bystander spin right around. Scanning the crowd, a tiny paw suddenly enters the frame. A bizarre rat-like creature appears. Talk about a massive letdown for Seihu. It is just a harmless chinchilla, though the surrounding crowd still starts whispering in excitement. Is she a tamer? Others look on, wondering why they have never seen her before. They quickly identify her as Yuri Min, a famous hunter from the elite Snowflake Guild. Her legendary reputation, she is famous for hunting fearsome saber-toothed tigers. No one knows why. Meanwhile, Yuri walks right past the awkward scene. She completely ignores the three fools from Epic Guild, though Seihu is already totally starstruck by her. Jahan snaps at them. He demands they stop wasting time and head to the MA. He warns that this tamer is a highly specialized beast hunting expert. If they do not move fast, her pet will definitely snatch up every single tiger. Just as Jahan is speaking, the little rodent suddenly appears directly behind him. Feeling a presence, Jahan spins around and asks what the hell it is doing there. It bares its sharp teeth. Instantly, Seihu and Sashimi scream at him to run. Despite their panic screams, Jahan remains completely calm and tells them not to worry. He insists it will not hurt him, as a system window suddenly calculates attack odds. Sashimi and Seihu look on with absolute disgust, and honestly, who can blame them? Yuri is surprised, noting her pet's behavior is incredibly unusual right now. She mentions that the cute little creature almost never shows any interest in random strangers. The skilled tamer formally introduces herself, saying it is a pleasure to meet them. She is Yuri Min of the Snowflake Guild. Hearing this, Jahan speaks up. He introduces himself as Jahan Yu from Epic, pointing to their gorgeous female leader, Seihu Kim. Yuri looks at him and asks if Jahan keeps any hamsters at home. Jahan replies that he has no pets, leaving Yuri to ponder the reaction. There must be some hidden reason, as her chinchilla simply never acts this way with anyone. Suddenly, Sashimi lunges forward. He grabs Yuri's hand to start his own introduction. He proudly announces his name is Sashimi, representing the Monster Cleanup Services team. Sashimi eagerly tells her to call his team whenever she needs a proper cleanup crew. She politely declines, but Sashimi continues to push, insisting there is no need to worry. Right on cue, the angry chinchilla pops up directly behind him with a glare. A crowd gathers nearby to watch the awkward scene. Poor Sashimi gets totally ignored, while onlookers whisper about Yuri actually speaking to another guild. They note how incredibly rare this is, since she is usually very cold. The gossip quickly shifts as they wonder if these guys were seen hanging out with Doha earlier. Jahan quietly turns away, realizing they are drawing way too much attention. Yuri also notices the staring crowd, offering a quick, polite apology before leaving. Wishing them the best of luck, she walks away, and Jahan politely bids her farewell too. Still, Jahan could not help but wonder about Yuri and her guild. He knew. It had been nearly 3 years since anyone heard anything about Snowflake. With their reputation, they should be rank 3 by now. He wondered why she was still stuck at rank 4, but realized that guessing was not his job. Jahan then called out to Seishi that they should head inside, and she quickly agreed. He told the cleanup guy not to disappear, and Sashimi agreed. The scene then shifts to a massive building named Greenscape. As the two entered, Seishi mentioned that something felt pretty off. They had already reached the 5th floor without encountering a single monster. Jahan suggested that maybe they just took too long. And other guilds had already cleared the path, standing before the staircase. Jahan said they would need to search every single floor on their way up. Seishi asked why. They could not just take the elevator, but Jahan guessed it probably was not working. So the two began climbing. Seishi complained about making a fragile mage climb endless stairs, but Jahan jokingly replied that every mage needs to work on their physical stamina. As they ascended, a strange man suddenly appeared, asking who was there. He demanded to know their business. It was Gaiman, a member of the elite knife guild. Gaiman asked if they had missed the sign downstairs warning that this entire building was under the knife guild from floors 207 to 209. Seishi, furious, said they could not just claim territory like that, but Gaiman sneered that he had no time for pathetic little guilds. He explained it was an unspoken rule allowing them to claim these areas to secure the best magic stones. He added that when a large guild Claims a location, lower-ranking guilds do not have much of a choice. He said this. Applied to a tiny two-member guild like theirs, telling them to leave. Immediately, but Jahan responded that actually, they were the ones who would be leaving. Jahan declared he would report them, because everyone knows it is highly illegal to claim areas. Gaiman told him to shut the hell up, asking if Jahan really thought the Hunter Association would do anything. Jahan asked if that was a threat as he sized up the hostile group around him. He counted a tank, 2 warriors, and a mage. The staircase was incredibly narrow, which would make it difficult for all 4 of them to attack him at once. Quietly triggering his ability, he weighed his chances of winning. Another man scoffed, asking what Jahan could possibly do about it, as they faced off. A system window showed an 80% success rate. Gaiman grew confused. Wondering why Jahan was not making a move yet, Gaiman turned to his mage and demanded to know why he was just standing there, ordering him to help. The mage muttered that he was about to attack. Right at that moment, Jahan shouted for Seishi. She called back that she was ready, already casting her spell. Together, they launched their respective attacks, one of water and one of raging fire. The spells collided, creating a massive explosion of energy. The blast tore right through the building, blowing a giant hole right through the wall. Jahan and Seishi immediately began sprinting up the stairs as fast as they could. The other men yelled that they were running away, but Seishi cast another spell at them. A ring of fire erupted around the hostile men, leaving them totally trapped and confused. Meanwhile, Jahan leaped toward Gaiman, ready to land a heavy blow. Gaiman blocked Jahan's attack. He questioned what someone so weak was doing in a rank 4 area. Jahan replied that Gaiman talked way too much, pointing out that his entire body was exposed. Gaiman. He took a brutal hit and crashed, ending up right back where he started. Sprawled on the dirt, he asked if they honestly thought they would get away. He threatened them with his guild's payback, but Jahan cut him off instantly. Jahan slammed his sword into the ground right beside Guy's head, asking a chilling question. What could his guild do for a dead man? Suddenly, a new figure stepped in. She warned Guy his squad was too weak, and then Sihu asked a question. She offered to finish him off. One trapped Guy wondered how she cast so much. He wondered who these 2 even were, as 2 more men ran up. One screamed to put the fire out, but his partner yelled back in panic. He admitted he sucked at water magic, while a bald man started complaining. They had not even seen the tiger yet, but were already wasting energy. As he spoke, he looked behind him. A woman quickly used a water spell. The fire died down. The woman announced the flames were finally out. But as she turned around, a mutant tiger was already eating the bald bystander. He screamed from inside the beast's jaws, terrified by the gruesome sight. The woman fled in absolute panic. Sihu and Jahan heard the loud screams. The sound came from the stairs. She asked if it was a saber-tooth. Jahan shook his head, noting the screams were far too loud for that. He activated his abilities, and a system window appeared to calculate survival. Right at that moment, the giant mutant tiger emerged directly in front of them. It was covered in the blood of its victim. The monster let out a roar. The terrifying saber-toothed tiger roared again, aiming its anger directly at Jahan and Sihu. Talk about terrifying, their survival rate updated to only 0.5%. The beast charged straight ahead. Sihu gasped, asking Jahan if that was really a tiger. Jahan confirmed it was an incredibly strong mutant, noting he had never seen one like this before. It was completely different from anything they had ever faced. Meanwhile, Guy and the other bystander stood frozen in absolute shock. Terrified of the beast, Jahan turned to them, asking for help to fight it. But Guy was already running away, screaming that fighting it was completely useless. He yelled that even 4 of them stood no chance. Jahan called them cowards. Privately, Jahan had to admit that he and Sihu were not strong enough alone. The monster stomped hard, shattering the ground beneath as it rushed forward. As it closed in, Jahan warned Sihu and quickly drew his sword. At the very last moment, he barely managed to block the mutant's attack. Jahan realized its power was insane. His blade would have broken without elemental help. He knew he had to finish this quickly, deciding to end it in one blow. But as he prepared, the mutant suddenly swung its razor-sharp claws at him. Luckily, Sylph cast her defensive spell just in time to save Jahan from disaster. She screamed that this was his chance, urging him to strike with all his strength. He struck, using his skill to channel elemental power directly into his sword. But the hit did nothing. The mutant immediately retaliated with a fierce counter. It slammed Jahan in the head, sending him flying as he coughed up blood. Groaning, Jahan admitted he did not even see that hit coming. Sylph quickly attacked. She unleashed her wind arrow ability, but the mutant easily saw them coming. The beast effortlessly dodged every single shot, leaving Sylph completely out of options. They were completely out of options, with absolutely no way to block the incoming strike. Right then, Yuri Min and her pet chinchilla burst onto the scene. Without wasting a beat, the creature charged the mutant. It rescued Sylph just in time, and the two massive beasts collided. The tiny chinchilla actually managed to toss the giant tiger aside. Staring at the massive crater, a shaken Sylph realized the little guy saved her life. Yuri Min explained she had only rushed over after hearing a massive explosion nearby, but never expected to find them. Sylph simply noted it was Yuri Min from Snowflake. Yuri quickly glanced over at Jahan, noticing right away that he was in terrible shape. She told Sylph to grab the injured Jahan and run, promising she would handle things here. Sylph suggested they should fall back and call for other heroes instead. But Yuri Min confidently brushed it off. No oversized saber-toothed cat was going to stop her. Sylph could see a massive shift in Yuri's eyes and the sharpness in her tone. Without another word, Yuri leaped right off the high ledge, diving straight toward the beast. Meanwhile, Chilla was already putting serious pressure on the giant mutant. The beast took a punch so unbelievably heavy that it instantly coughed up blood. Another wild flurry of blows connected, sending blood spraying everywhere. Falling from above, Yuri shouted down to Chilla, who immediately looked up at his master mid-battle. Pointing right at the mutant, Yuri unleashed a devastating spell targeting the beast. Having just pummeled the tiger, Chilla swiftly dodged to let the magic strike. The magical blast connected, encasing the tiger in a solid block of ice. But the creature soon shattered its frozen cage and broke free. Yuri landed gracefully beside Chilla. Noting that the mutant could still move, this monster was on a whole different level. With a roar, the beast charged right at them. Yuri quickly fired another ice spell. This time, her magic flew even faster, but it still wasn't enough to connect. The agile tiger easily dodged every single projectile. Still, Yuri knew every beast has a weakness. Suddenly, the advancing tiger collapsed hard onto the ground after a clean strike to its knee. Yuri confidently stated that the beast wouldn't be getting back up anytime soon. She explained that while these prehistoric saber-toothed beasts have incredible raw strength, she added that while their flexibility is a natural trait, when their massive muscles contract from the intense freezing cold, their stiff joints simply cannot support their own weight, Yuri declared to the tiger. The battle finished. Its fatal mistake was letting her freezing ice arrows hit it. Watching from above, Sylph was absolutely amazed, realizing they never stood a single chance. The badly beaten Jahan weakly called out to Sylph, who quickly rushed to his side. He urged her to go help Yuri, but Sylph insisted there was no need anymore. Yuri had already completely taken care of the saber-toothed beast. Jahan, however, completely disagreed, warning that this fight was far from over, activating his unique ability. He quickly calculated Yuri's true odds of survival. He realized she was in grave danger. Even as she confidently moved in to deliver the final blow, Yuri promised the beast a quick and painless end, but suddenly the enraged creature snapped right back up. Even worse, more saber-toothed tigers emerged from all directions. A system screen flashed, showing her odds instantly dropping below 10%, the entire pack charged at Yuri, ready to tear her apart. Watching from above, Jahan saw they were all grouped. He realized every single tiger was now clustered together. It was officially now or never. Jahan quickly turned to Sihu, asking if she could use her levitation to get them out. She agreed to get them down safely, but admitted she wasn't very good at it. Jahan pulls her close, telling her to use her skill exactly when he says. She blushes instantly as she says his name, while he pulls out a glowing sphere. Clutching a glowing green sphere, Jahan tells her this is their absolute only shot. Without hesitation, he leaps right off the roof, holding Saihu tight and activating his haste. As they freefall through the air, she panics, begging him to at least explain the plan. Down below, a pack of massive saber-toothed tigers look up, ready to shred them mid-air. But just in time, a devastating rain of magic spells blasts straight into the beasts. The caster is Yuri Min, but she's too focused, letting a beast sneak up from behind. Right in the nick of time, Chilla jumps in to block the deadly strike. Now both of them are completely surrounded, trapped in a sea of snarling predators. Yuri Min is running low on mana, frustrated by this seemingly endless swarm. Trapped in the chaos, she needs to find the mutant boss before it can regenerate. But then a bizarre rushing sound echoes from the sky right above them. Yep, those two reckless fools are actually jumping right off the high-rise. Activate levitation now, Jahan screams at her to use her magic. She complies instantly, bringing her gravity-defying magic to life. Jahan feels the speed drop, but they are still falling far too fast. He's forced to burn his own precious mana to break their fall completely. As Saihu asks if they are safe, Jahan prepares a devastating counterattack. He tells her he is perfectly locked onto his target, ready to unleash absolute hell. All he needs to do is slice it, just like that giant mutant cockatrice. He unleashes a massive, sweeping strike on every single beast in sight. Total and utter destruction, the two land safely on the ground. They land safely, but Jahan is totally exhausted from burning through his mana. Yuri Min rushes over, absolutely furious, reminding them she told them to stay back. Jahan snaps back, asking if that's how she normally thanks the people saving her life. Yuri Min insists she never wanted their help and had the situation fully controlled. Jahan scoffs, asking what her weird obsession is with these beasts anyway. Chilla shoots Jahan a venomous glare, a warning sign that Saihu immediately notices. Suddenly, Saihu shouts a warning that several of the tigers are still standing. Jahan points out that these aren't even the same enemies they fought earlier. The boss mutant is somehow summoning endless reinforcements directly into the fray. Yuri Min points out its limbs should be shattered, but Jahan suspects regeneration. She snaps that she's never encountered a mutant beast with this kind of recovery. Wait, this triggers something deep. Her mind suddenly flashes back to an old memory. She sees a girl covered in red sauce, desperately crying out for her to escape. While Yuri Min is completely dazed, Jahan yells that the beast is heavily damaged. He says they can finish this now, but Yuri Min suddenly charges the monster. Jahan screams her name, but she completely tunes him out, rushing forward. He cannot comprehend why she is suddenly charging into danger all by herself. Realizing he must act, Jahan turns to Saihu and demands cover fire immediately. She nods instantly as the massive pack swarms directly toward Yuri Min. Casting her magic, she obliterates a whole pack, standing face to face with the boss. Prepping her next spell, another beast lunges forward to strike her down mid-cast. It grabbed her by the foot, but Yuri Min screamed to get out of her way and hurled it aside. Thrown like a rag doll, the beast recovered, and with her guard down, she was vulnerable. It lunged with claws out. Shockingly, the beast had already regenerated at an impossible speed. The roaring beast swiped. Suddenly, Jahan lunged. He struck hard, eating her. That was probably a terrible idea. Cold food might give the mutant a stomach ache, he mocked. No time wasted, Jahan closed the gap and hammered the beast. His heavy blows landed. This time, they did real damage. Seeing her opening, Chilla leaped into the battle to back him up, and Saihu immediately followed her lead. Charging forward for the final strike, Jahan roared that this was the absolute end. But Yuri Min jumped right in front of him, begging him not to kill it. Stop! Jahan halted his strike just in time, demanding to know her reason. He argued they had to destroy the mutant before it regenerated again. But Yuri Min insisted they had to capture it alive, no exceptions. Absolutely furious, Jahan ordered her to move, demanding to know her actual plan. Why was she doing this? But as they argued, the mutant recovered. Rising back up, the beast lunged directly at Yuri Min to tear her apart. Saihu and Jahan watched in horror, and honestly, can you blame them? The monster roared. Saihu warned that each roar summoned more tigers. Jahan desperately searched for a plan, but his mana was dry. Just then, a strange voice mocked them as gravity suddenly crushed the area. Jahan struggled against the pressure, demanding to know who was there. The newcomer called Jahan a mere amateur in a very familiar voice. Even with a rank 4 license, the speaker called him a disappointment. Another onlooker sneered, claiming he was not the amazing prodigy they expected. But a young woman disagreed, admitting she was impressed he lasted this long. It was Suk Kyan's elite squad, finally arriving to take over the battle. Suk Kyan told them to stop chatting and wrap things up quickly. The creator of the mutant watched, fully expecting this guild's arrival. Misoyan Lim immediately recognized them as the level 3 Dice Guild crew. He muttered that they should have sent a top-tier level 1 squad instead. When his assistant asked what to do next, Misoyan Lim ordered a hasty retreat. Still, he knew this was no loss. The mana crystal was spreading. Its integration over the last few minutes was absolutely beautiful to him. Deeply fascinated by the crystal's power, he ordered them to stay on track. Watching the grotesque transformation, Suk Kyan's crew could only stare in shock. Suk Kyan dryly remarked that this just meant more work for their department. Nearby, Jahan was carefully carried over by the backup forces. They checked on Saihu, but she stubbornly insisted she was perfectly fine. Suddenly, Chilla froze. They sensed a strange presence. Scanning the area, they froze. But hold on, the story suddenly skips forward one whole week. Jiwon sat staring at his phone, reading the latest breaking news. Sashimi appeared out of nowhere, demanding to know what happened inside. He pointed out their battle was all over the media, asking why Jiwon looked so battered. Jiwon muttered that normal people shouldn't know, but Sashimi demanded the truth. Since they are partners, Jiwon quietly regrets ever hiring him. He remembers what went down that day. 8 heroes died in that zone. The hero department had completely underestimated the massive pack of saber-toothed tigers. The mutant's sudden appearance triggered a massive infestation of those beasts. Pure tragedy. It was an unprecedented disaster that scarred Jiwon forever. He still feels guilty. He adds that the whole event felt calculated, like it was no random accident, and that this mutant was unlike any other. He tries not to dwell on it, hoping the hero department's investigation yields answers. Meanwhile, his guildmate Sashimi chimes in with a quick question. He notes that Sihu is missing today, and Jiwon explains she has errands to run. She should be back any minute. Right then, an old phone suddenly begins to ring. Sashimi stares at it, noting he has never once heard that line ring before. Jiwon explains it is the emergency line, reserved only for their registered heroes. But why would anyone use it to call the Epic Guild now? He answers cautiously. Greeting the caller, a cheerful female voice immediately cuts him off on the other side. She introduces herself as Urim from the Snowflake Guild, leaving Jiwon completely stunned. He asks if it is really her, while Sashimi watches the conversation in total shock. Jiwon asks what brought this on, while Sashimi jokingly begs someone to pass the popcorn. Urim apologizes for using the emergency line, explaining she had no other way to reach him. Jiwon reassures her it is fine, immediately asking how she is recovering from her injuries. She says she is nearly fully healed, then asks how he is holding up. He claims he is fine, but her tense, uneasy tone tells him something is seriously wrong. There is no way she called the emergency line just for a friendly chat. Out of nowhere, she nervously asks him if they can go on a date today. Sashimi, currently stuffing his face with popcorn, literally screams, "A date, today, impossible." Meanwhile, we cut to a quiet office where Sihu is catching up with her father. She asks how he is doing, and he mentions hearing about her recent mutant clash. Concerned, he asks if she was injured in that Emma zone, but she says she is fine. He still lectures her about caution, sternly reminding her of a hard truth. Support heroes are always the primary targets. She groans, begging him to stop repeating himself. He repeats his golden rule anyway: if a mission goes wrong, she must run and never look back. Sihu sighs, telling him to stop worrying. Still, he is glad she has a reliable partner. Blushing, she agrees that Jahan has been an incredible help to both her and the entire guild. She tells her father that without Jahan, she would still be stuck in the exact same place. He agrees. Her father is Jino Kim, the head researcher over at Kyoto, Tokyo. He expresses a strong desire to meet the young hero, Jahan, in person. After all, Jahan inherited his mother's legacy, and there are so many questions. Just then, his assistant interrupts, telling him a new sample has arrived for review. He promises he is right on his way and instructs her to go on ahead. Turning back to his daughter, he says he must go, but she quickly stops him. She eagerly asks when he is coming to Korea. He replies that his visit is set for the anniversary of her mother's passing. She pouts as he abruptly hangs up. Typical dad, she sighs. Stretching her arms, she decides to finish her chores. Suddenly, her phone rings again, leaving her wondering why he is calling back. The scene shifts to Jahan, who is now dressed to impress. He looks incredibly charming, carrying a good luck charm given by Sashimi. Jahan wonders what kind of luck this charm is even for. Honestly, he only put it on to stop Sashimi from nagging. Just then, Yuri calls out, asking if she kept him waiting. Jahan secretly notes that she looks nothing like a martial artist. He says he just got here, which instantly puts her at ease. After some playful banter, Yuri mentions she already booked their table. Meanwhile, Sashimi, munching on some popcorn, points out the duo to Siho. A highly jealous Siho fumes, wondering what Jahan is doing. She is convinced this is Yuri's scheme, and honestly, can we blame her? It is infuriating, especially since Yuri literally shot arrows at them earlier. As the guild master, Siho decides this is totally unacceptable. Cut to the restaurant, where Jahan and Yuri are enjoying their lunch. Yuri smiles, enjoying the fresh coffee aroma, while Siho spies from afar. Siho keeps muttering that this is not okay, while Jahan chats away. Jahan compliments Yuri on her deadly accurate dart throws and offers some help. He offers to carry her teddy bear, but she politely declines. Sashimi whispers that the entire setup looks incredibly suspicious. Instead of answering, Siho punches him, claiming it is clearly a date. Rubbing his bruised face, Sashimi asks if they should just let it slide. Siho mutters that she has no right to interfere with Jahan's love life. And yet, a part of her remains deeply bothered by the whole thing. She simply cannot shake this nagging annoyance as the scene shifts back. Jahan and Yuri are finishing up, both having had a great time. But Jahan quickly asks her to reveal the real reason behind this meeting. Yuri acts surprised, but Jahan knows this is more than a casual hangout. Yuri finally admits she was just waiting for him to ask. She confesses there is a specific place she needs him to visit. Jahan correctly guesses it is a hospital where her sister is admitted. Walking inside, Jahan silently wonders what happened to Yuri's sister. He asks if he can enter the room when his system skill suddenly triggers. Yuri introduces the sleeping girl as her beloved younger sister, Soyeon. His interface pops up, but the usual stat percentages are completely gone. Instead, Jahan reads a bizarre medical screen displaying manic decoration. It is a rare syndrome, and Yuri explains this is why she wanted the tigers. A brutal tiger attack 4 years ago left her sister in a coma. Soyeon has been asleep ever since, leaving her doctors completely baffled. Hearing this sad story, Jahan finally understands Yuri's obsession. She had been frantically hunting those mutant beasts for a cure. Yuri nods in agreement, admitting she kept pushing, hoping for a miracle. She truly believed the mutant factor held the key, but she was wrong. The latest research reports proved there was absolutely no link at all. Deeply remorseful, Yuri apologizes for dragging them both into extreme danger. She admits she put Jahan and Sashimi at risk, but Jahan just smiles. He told her he finally understood her reasons, just then. Jihoon's special ability flared to life again, calculating exactly how vital. Yuri was for expanding Epic. Deep down, Jahan knew they needed her. This exact same thing had happened before, the day he first met Sashimi. He remembered telling Sihu to stop, and right then his ability revealed Sashimi's massive value to Epic. Jahan felt his power was actively guiding him toward his revenge. He had never seen it act like this before. He admitted he only hired Sashimi to figure out how his power worked, and now history was repeating itself. But this time with Yuri, Min Jahan was completely lost in thought, if he found one. Out of 4, Yuri Min was essential to complete his entire group. He still needed 3 more. Yuri noticed him pale and overwhelmed, asking if he was okay. He simply told her he felt a bit dizzy, but his mind raced. When his ability first calculated Epic's success rate, it was 99%, but now there were new conditions. Jahan started to feel weak. Realizing that overusing his power so much was taking a heavy toll, still he decided that if this was what it took, he would do it. Turning to Yuri, he asked how many years she had been hunting those tigers. She said it had been about 4 years. Jahan pointed out that in all that time she had not found a single clue to wake her sister. Yuri had to agree. Jahan admitted he did not know much about her methods, but since nothing had worked so far, it was probably time for a new strategy. Yuri asked what kind of approach he was suggesting. Jahan decided to give her a simple example. He rolled up his sleeve, pointing out that for a simple cut, you would normally disinfect it and apply ointment. He asked if she knew what was in those ointments. Yuri admitted she had no idea. Jahan explained it was a common ingredient called Centella asiatica, or Indian pennywort. He told her it was just a regular plant you could find in any mountain or field. The plant had antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties, along with other health benefits. Jahan continued explaining that while plants had not become monsters yet, some researchers thought it was only a matter of time, and for treating wounds it was not the plant stem itself that was useful. The real healing came from the plant's extracts. Yuri found that an interesting way to look at it. The plant itself had nothing to do with her injuries, but it was still helpful. Gazing at her sister, Yuri thought this might apply to her situation. Then, again, maybe it did not, and it certainly did not seem to connect to the tigers. Jahan realized that Yuri already knew everything he was telling her. She had simply chosen to push forward anyway. Her desire for revenge against the creature that hurt her sister was just that strong. With that in mind, Jahan told her he had a proposal. A proposal, she asked, as Jahan said he wanted to recruit her for Epic. Yuri was completely stunned, asking if he truly wanted her to join. He confirmed it. If she agreed, he promised to help with her sister's treatment. Yuri blushed as he assured her this was not an empty promise, but a firm contract. His ability began calculating the probability of him being able to help, but it was not giving him any new information, just showing the same results. Regardless, Jahan knew he had to recruit Yuri. Yuri asked for some time to think over his offer before deciding. Jahan agreed, letting her take all the time she needed. Deciding to let her process everything, Jahan got up and said his goodbyes. Yuri apologized for dumping her heavy family drama on him. Before leaving, he glanced at his wrist and remembered Sashimi's amulet. He took the amulet off, telling Yuri he had a gift for her. He explained it brought good luck and suggested giving it to her sister. Yuri thanked him, saying her sister absolutely loved charms like that. As he walked away from the hospital, Jahan hoped they would meet again. She simply blushed and happily waved goodbye as he left. Now watch, the scene shifts to a massive corporate building nearby. Inside Yung Park, the powerful owner of Kairos pointed out they were late. Over the microphone, another guild member complained about waiting way too long. Yung Park decided to start anyway, despite one missing guild. Suddenly, Doha strolled right in, complaining about the awful scheduling. Who even sets meetings at this hour? He grumbled to everyone. His assistant whispered that they really should have arrived sooner. Doha shrugged it off, questioning why he even had to attend. Another angry leader mocked Doha for talking so big despite being so late. This loudmouth was Hunan, the arrogant leader of the famous Warriors Guild. Doha shot back, asking if someone had just risen from the dead. He taunted Hunan, bringing up his guild's recent total wipeout. That rank 1M a disaster was years ago. Hunan stood up furious. He screamed that it takes way more than that to break his guild. Someone in the background told them both to quiet down. He called them incredibly immature for being powerful guild leaders. This speaker was Gangchen, owner of the Red Hall Guild. He smugly asked Doha if he learned his lesson after being saved. Furious, Doha demanded to know if they should settle this outside. Gangchen flatly refused, asking why he would fight someone so weak. Their legendary rivalry was clear, spanning 103 total matches. Gangchen had 52 wins and 51 losses, while Doha had 51 wins. A woman nearby sighed, calling them both a pair of children. She wondered why these guys always felt the need to prove themselves. This was Myojo Kim, owner of the Snowball Guild, who Doha greeted warmly. He noted it had been about 3 years since they last met. Myojo snapped when Doha joked that her new look made her look old. She demanded to know who he was calling old, while Doha grinned. His assistant muttered that no woman ever wants to hear that. Finally, the meeting leader announced that they could officially begin now. He explained they were summoned because of a massive crisis in Incheon. This time, they found damning evidence pointing directly to the IUPC. The room fell silent. Doha growled about those damn protesters. This meant they could finally go all out and storm the IUPC. At headquarters, Doha gets warned to watch his mouth. Myojo steps up. He explains they cannot act on mere rumors, questioning why other guilds stayed quiet. The head of the meeting nods, agreeing completely with this solid point. Myojo is absolutely right, they say, urging everyone to proceed with caution. But the presenter cuts in, telling the room to look back at the screen. He announces that he is far from done, pulling up a new image. It is the terrifying saber-toothed tiger mutant that recently ravaged Incheon. Whispers break out as everyone wonders what kind of freakish beast this is. No one has ever faced anything like it. Gangchen notes how grotesque it looks. The presenter agrees, calling it a highly unusual, completely atypical mutant. Even the hero department has started receiving warnings about similar creatures. Like the terrifying red spider that was found climbing Mount Jiayin. Or the bizarre flesh-eating plants suddenly sprouting inside a private field. Every single one of these mutants popped up right after that tiger. Hunan interrupts, asking why this matters since weird monsters appear all the time. The speaker concedes that on the surface, these creatures look perfectly normal. But get this, their actual DNA tells a completely different story. Analysis shows they all share the exact same genetic modification as the tiger. Myojin demands answers, telling him to explain what this change really means. So the presenter drops the bomb, revealing the truth about their mana crystals. We all know that every mutant naturally carries a mana crystal inside. The research lab proved these crystals form when massive mana fuses together. But here is the crazy part. Engineering one of these is supposedly impossible. Our current technology is nowhere near advanced enough to manufacture them. Yet the core inside that saber-toothed beast was entirely artificial. Someone engineered it specifically so it could be melted into a liquid. Outraged voices fill the room, pointing out the obvious contradiction in his words. How could anyone build an artificial crystal when the tech does not exist? Doha's assistant whispers to him, asking if he has any clues about this. Doha shakes his head, knowing only that this process works for elemental beings. Suddenly, everything clicks, and he understands the reason behind this mutant surge. This is a massive, illegal experiment to condense raw mana into liquid form. Having solved the puzzle, Doha loudly declares that the culprit is incredibly obvious. Gangchen smiles at the theory, but warns they need proof before throwing accusations. He demands to know how the IUPC fits into this dark puzzle. He reminds the speaker that he promised real evidence against that organization. The presenter explains that on the fateful day, trespassers entered the MA. Drone surveillance captured their movements, and facial scans successfully identified a suspect. The face staring back from the screen belongs to Ma's young Lim. He is 33 years old and currently works as a manager at the IUPC. The presenter adds that 4 years ago, this man was a brilliant researcher. He worked in magical engineering before getting fired for causing serious trouble. Gangchen raises an eyebrow, repeating the word trouble with deep suspicion. He asks the presenter what exactly Ma's young Lim did back then. The records show he actually stole a precious mana crystal from the facility and ran illegal human experiments, backed by solid proof. The association marked Ma's young Lim as their primary suspect. To catch him quickly, they sent an urgent plea. They wanted every guild aiding. Soon the scene shifts directly to a quiet bus stop. Jahan stood waiting. Standing there, he heard several nearby people talking. Whispering about his style, commenting on his extremely handsome looks, someone nearby wondered if he was a hero. Another scoffed, why on earth would a hero ride a bus? Jahan ignored them, scrolling on his phone. Still no reply from her. Why? Jahan desperately needed to speak with her. He reconsidered his scout offer to Yuri. Still no word. Maybe it was time to tell Siha he wanted to recruit her, too. Even without his insight ability, Jahan knew Yuri was a massive asset. The only issue, money, a recruit of her caliber would be incredibly expensive. Still, they had funds left from sashimi clearing monsters. Perhaps they could negotiate a price. Just then, a car pulled up nearby. The driver leaned right over, asking if Jahan was planning on getting inside. Jahan quickly hopped in. He asked to drop him at the 5th corner. The driver agreed to the destination. Then, he asked if Jahan was a hero. Jahan confirmed it, making the driver laugh. He never imagined driving one around. He was definitely going to brag to everyone about this ride. Jahan appreciated the kind words. The driver commented on his looks next. Guessing Jahan belonged to a top guild, Warriors, Red Hall, or maybe even Dice. Slightly embarrassed, Jahan admitted his guild was small. They were called Epic. Jahan expected him to draw a complete blank. But the driver instantly gasped. Epic, he asked if they handled those saber-toothed tigers at the Greenscape apartments. Jahan was utterly shocked and asked how he knew that. The driver smiled, explaining he lived right there, quite a coincidence. Then they both went quiet. Jahan quietly studied him. Breaking the silence, the driver muttered that seeing something like that made it a terrible day for Lux. Right then, a hybrid girl walked into a nearby alley. The driver shuddered. Admitting hybrids gave him the creeps. Jahan asked him why. The driver was surprised. Had Jahan not heard the dark rumors? Jahan pointed out she looked like a normal high school student. Driver shot back that student or not, that thing was not A person, to heroes, they might seem different, but to regular people, a hybrid attack meant instant death. Jahan understood that fear. He remembered the invasion, humans attacked by all kinds of vicious creatures. Naturally, some of that terror was bound to linger, but still that girl was just a child. Judging her like that felt entirely wrong. In that moment he thought of Siha. She must have spent her entire life dealing with this exact kind of heavy, unfair prejudice. Suddenly, Jihan noticed something odd. A group of men were tailing her. His suspicion spiked. He immediately ordered the driver to pull over. But the driver flatly refused, saying they were almost at their destination. Still needed to be paid. At first, the girl did not even notice her followers. But then she glanced back and saw them. She immediately bolted, making the men yell for someone to catch her. One thug managed to snatch her, roughly covering her mouth with a cloth to muffle her cries. The kidnappers called the hybrid girl their lucky jackpot. They gloated, laughing about how absolutely thrilled the VIPs would be with this fresh delivery. Right then, Jahan stepped out of the shadows, demanding to know what was going on. He gave them a simple choice: count to 3 or face immediate death. Then he lunged. Shouting 1, 2, 3 in a flash, he charged. The thugs yelled at him to count properly. But before Jahan could strike, a massive newcomer suddenly blocked his path. This giant thug looked completely ready for a brawl, warning Jahan to stay out of their business. Who was this monster? Jahan wondered, and then their fight kicked off. As blows traded in the narrow alley, the scene shifts over to the epic's headquarters. A phone on the table was constantly vibrating from a massive flood of text messages. Sihu noticed it and picked it up. Nearby, Sashimi asked why she was ignoring Jahan. Shrugging, she explained it was not Jahan, just annoying debt collectors. She had no reason to dodge him anyway. Sashimi teased her, calling her jealous. Sihu quieted down, wondering why Jahan was suddenly spamming her this late at night. But as she read the actual messages, her eyes went wide in pure shock. A kidnapping. Meanwhile, back in the dark alley, the thugs still held the girl. The muscular giant stood firmly in Jahan's path. Jahan asked if he was with them. He warned the giant to step aside if he wanted to walk away clean. But the brute just told him to shut up, charging forward with a wild roar. Time to die. Jahan realized instantly that talking to him was completely useless. The thug foolishly bragged that the hero was done for, but in a flash, Jahan vanished. He reappeared right behind him, whispering that this hero he wanted was right here. The giant spun around, screaming that the hero was dead, swinging a massive rock at his head. But Jahan blocked the heavy blow just in time, noticing a strange energy radiating outward. It was a mana-infused strike, otherwise his simple block would have shattered. He wondered briefly if this muscular brute was actually another hero. Meanwhile, the other kidnappers began tossing the helpless girl into a nearby van. Jahan quickly tried to figure out how to stop them from escaping. But the big guy wound up another punch, warning him not to look away. Ducking and jumping aside, he easily dodged the heavy rock thrown straight at him. He really wanted to avoid breaking up a quiet civilian neighborhood. But there was no choice. He would have to unleash another 1% of his power. Just as he prepared to end this in a single strike, a voice told them to stop. This new arrival calmly stepped in, saying he could not let them wreck the alleyway. He told Jahan he was lucky they were in a rush, since they normally kill all witnesses. Are they all working for the exact same crew? He calmly asked. But the white-haired newcomer ignored him, asking his giant partner if he forgot their quiet orders. He scolded the bulky thug for causing such a loud scene on his very first job. The white-haired man warned him that the boss would definitely want a word with him. The big brute quickly insisted that would not be necessary at all. He punched a nearby wall, sending a shower of heavy bricks flying straight at Jahan. Right after that, both the bulky thug and his white-haired partner suggested that maybe next time, and then they just disappeared. Jahan sheathed his swords. Noting they were completely gone, he wondered who those two were and what they wanted. Using his leaping skill, Jahan started scaling the nearby buildings. He activated his tracking ability to figure out exactly which way the van went. He kept leaping from one rooftop to the next, hoping he would eventually find their route. But right in the middle of his search, his phone suddenly began to ring. The caller was Sihu. Jahan asked if she was heading to the address he sent. She confirmed she was and demanded a clear explanation about this crazy kidnapping. Jahan told her. He witnessed a hybrid girl being snatched. Sihu replied she was on her way and would get the police involved immediately. Jahan told her to be careful before hanging up. Sihu was left completely speechless, trying to process what she had just heard. She thought about it, a person from another species kidnapped. These crimes were growing too common. Sihu could not help but wonder why these half-humans were being targeted lately. Meanwhile, the suspect Van Jahan was chasing had finally pulled over up ahead. It was parked in a deserted area. As he got closer, he muttered that he had finally found them. Moving in closer, Jahan confirmed it was the right vehicle. When he reached the driver's side, he saw one thug asleep inside, apparently waiting for his crew. The sleeping man was suddenly jolted awake by a sharp knock-on. The glass still half asleep, the thug mumbled, asking if they were already done, but the one looking through the window was Jahan. The guy scrambled in shock. Talk about an absolute nightmare wake-up call. Jahan simply punched straight through the glass and snatched the device. Holding the phone, Jahan looked irritated, asking if the man failed to hear him knocking. He told the guy to stop waiting around and get out. The man nervously asked if Jahan was a hero, insisting he could explain the whole situation. Jahan told him they would talk once he stepped out of the vehicle. Then Jahan hoisted him into the air, declaring that he was the hero who discovered this crime scene. That meant the man's life was in his hands, and this was his final chance. Jahan demanded an explanation, but the completely overwhelmed man could only mumble helplessly. The scene changes to the inside of a dark warehouse where several people were hooded and bound. The terrifying sound of approaching footsteps filled them with fear. A man in a suit walked in, carrying a large bag. He set it down before another person whose face lit up. A bald man with a scarred head asked if that was today's delivery. The other man confirmed it was, saying it was the half-human cat girl their client had ordered. As soon as they ripped the tape from her mouth, she started screaming, desperately begging them not to kill her. One of the men just laughed, remarking that she had some spirit left in her. She immediately offered them everything she had, pleading desperately for her freedom. The bald man asked just how much money she was talking about. When she said it was around 2 million won, he scoffed, saying it was nowhere near enough. She explained it was everything she had saved after weeks of hard work. The bald man noted that she must have worked hard for it. He looked at the girl and said he did not like repeating himself, but her money meant nothing to him. He explained that he stood to make 900 million won from selling her. Her buyers, he revealed, had some dark experiments in mind, so she should not be upset. She was getting special treatment, sneering that this was actually a far better fate than getting tossed into some slaughterhouse. Suddenly, the camera pans over the bodies of every dead victim at the scene, shown in graphic, brutal detail. The bald boss tells his assistant that their client arrives in 40 minutes. So they need to clean this mess up fast. He gets straight to work, moving, but the captive girl suddenly cuts in with a sharp question. She asks if they even realize how highly illegal this is. It has to stop right now. Without a shred of remorse, the bald leader just laughs and fires back with his own cruel question. He asks what people would think if they saw her in this pathetic, helpless, and humiliating state. He then declares that after everything humanity has endured, the only thing left to crave is cold, hard revenge. He calls her a monster, completely heartless, but suddenly, a blinding golden aura begins to flare around her body. Time to go wild. She tries to trigger her berserk mode, but something feels off. Her limbs are totally frozen. Is someone actively cutting off her mana flow? Out of nowhere, the assistant lunges from behind and slams her head straight into the dirt. He sneers that magic power means absolutely nothing against his touch. Leaving her totally helpless, she gasps out, asking what he is doing to her. And he calmly explains that he is literally draining her dry of mana. So she cannot resist. Watching from the side, the bald boss warns his helper not to damage the goods. He mutters that these feline hybrids are always trouble, requiring extra precautions to keep them in line, deciding she has learned her lesson. He orders her thrown into the holding room, giving one last warning. Warning her that they would use force if she kept resisting, the assistant stepped forward. But a sudden, sharp noise from the roof froze everyone. The bald boss instantly looked up. Wondering what it was, his assistant quickly mentioned the guards stationed right outside. They were ready for any threat, but then something crashed straight through the ceiling. A figure dropped down, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. It was Jahan himself. Both the bald boss and his assistant stared, utterly confused by his grand entrance. Jahan got straight to the point, coldly stating that human trafficking was illegal. The assistant recognized him instantly, warning his boss that this was the same guy. He was the one who tried to stop their operation earlier, leaving the bald boss shocked. He demanded to know why nobody told him, but the assistant assumed the guards handled it. Jahan just stood there silently, wondering if these two were actually the masterminds. Seeing the room, he realized this operation was far worse than he guessed from above. He calmly announced that his first plan was simply to hand them to the police. But plans change. Now, he was going to deal with this filth himself. To him, they were just vicious monsters that needed to be put down permanently. Shaking with absolute terror, the bald man begged for mercy, claiming he just followed orders. Jahan did not buy it, demanding the name of the mastermind behind this entire operation. The coward bowed his head, crying that he would talk if they just let him live. But get this, beneath that bowed head, a sick, wicked grin spread across his face. Suddenly, the boss screamed at the top of his lungs, ordering his guards to attack. With a quiet breath, Jahan triggered his sampling skill, ready to move. He vanished like a ghost, leaving the incoming guards staring at thin air. To where Jahan had vanished when a voice suddenly echoed from right above them. It was Jahan announcing that he was right up there, watching their every move. The guards exchanged nervous looks. Jahan remarked they were surprisingly skilled at hiding their presence, wondering aloud if they were heroes given their polished skills. Without waiting for any answer, Jahan leaped into action, unleashing lightning-fast and precise attacks. When one of the henchmen tried to ambush him from behind, Jahan expertly evaded and struck back in an instant. The bald man stared in pure disbelief, muttering that it was impossible for a rank 5 to be so powerful. Jahan told them not to expect things to go their way, then renewed his assault with even greater force, and soon the defeated bodies of the bosses, men and his assistant, were left lying on the floor. Jahan walked over to the girl, pulling the tape off her mouth so she could speak. Still dazed, she quietly asked who he was. Jahan replied that he was there to help get her out of this mess. He then told her the police were already on their way. Before asking a direct question, he needed to know if she remembered everything that had happened, since he had to give the authorities a full report. The cat girl confirmed she did, but the moment she turned her head, she saw the bodies scattered across the floor. Jahan apologized, explaining that he couldn't do anything for the other children who had been there. The cat girl burst into tears, crying about why everyone treated her like a monster. She wished she had never been born with this body, unable to understand why people hated her so much. Jahan watched silently, wanting to offer comfort, but he couldn't find any words of comfort. Soon, the police arrived, confirming that a hero from the epic guild had neutralized all the kidnappers. The camera focused on the cat girl's face, capturing all the despair she felt. The scene then shifted to an old traditional Japanese-style house. There, the manager of the IUPC was speaking to a mysterious young man, thanking him for their earlier meeting. The young man expressed that he was open to meeting again, and the manager thanked him once again for the invaluable information, noting that the leaked intel was extremely useful, commenting that they had almost manipulated the rising human. The mysterious young man confirmed he had been closely keeping up with all the news and monitoring recent movements. He warned the manager that the association was watching him, asking if they could operate without problems. The manager told him not to worry, assuring him that everything was completely under control and working exactly as planned. The young man warned that he wanted no complications, pointing out that too much news was breaking in a single day. The manager, curious, asked for more details. The young man mentioned a potential plague in the area. He said they needed materials from a warehouse, but the police showed up and completely ruined their plans. He wasn't sure if it was a coincidence, but the exact same hero who took down the cybercat was present at that warehouse. The manager sounded surprised, but quickly tried to calm the young man down, promising a fast and quiet resolution. The mysterious young man strictly insisted on an efficient solution with absolutely no delays, then ended the call. After their talk, the scene cuts back to the kidnappers' hideout. Police officers, while searching the area, one of them reported they had found 12 children. They made it out alive, but sadly, the other victims were not so fortunate. Jahan was talking with a few police officers when someone suddenly called his name. He turned and saw Sylph, who immediately asked what was going on. She wanted to know if the children were safe, but Jahan could only save half. The rest were already gone. Hearing this, Sylph looked incredibly worried. She asked about the kidnappers, but Jahan confirmed he left them all alive. He explained that the police were now handling the entire investigation. Looking at her frightened expression, Jahan knew her fear made perfect sense. After all, she was not human. He suspected a much deeper conspiracy. Keeping the kidnappers alive was their only shot at finding the masterminds. They had mentioned a hipster client who was supposed to meet them. But with the police crawling everywhere, that client would never show up. Jahan asked the cops to investigate, and an officer assured him they would. They told him he could head home, but Jahan sensed something was off. The officer explained that one of the rescued victims wanted to speak with him. While he wondered who it was, the officer brought over the cat-girl hybrid. She softly apologized for the trouble, mentioning she had a quick question. Sylph kindly reassured the young girl that everything was going to be perfectly fine. Jahan realized the girl wanted him to take her home instead of the police. She told him she lived at Blue Sky at the top, which was a special shelter. It served as an orphanage for vulnerable, at-risk kids of other species. Though known as the best facility in the country, kids were still being kidnapped. As he was lost in thought, he looked up and spotted another girl. She immediately caught his attention, asking who he was before running off. Without warning, she ran toward someone standing just a short distance away. The rescued hybrid girl, Riggs, rushed forward and hugged the waiting woman. Sylph, the other hybrid, admitted she had not even noticed them there. Riggs glanced back at Jahan and Sylph, telling the woman it was fine. The woman introduced herself as the head director of the Blue Sky Orphanage. She explained the police called to ask if Jahan and Sylph saved the girl. With a deep bow, she expressed her sincere gratitude for saving Riggs. Sylph dismissed it, proudly saying it was simply her duty as a hero. The director then invited them inside for a quick cup of warm tea. She promised it would not take long, so the three entered the facility. Jahan remarked that the place felt surprisingly peaceful for an orphanage. The director explained that all the children were already fast asleep by now. But right then, 3 kids came running out, shouting that Riggs was back. One of them immediately hugged her, while the director scolded them to sleep. A child asked if Riggs was hurt, while another let out a sigh of relief. They were so glad she was safe, but Jahan noticed something else. The children did not look like they were getting enough rest. Riggs immediately stepped in, offering to take the kids back to bed herself. Leaving the adults to go ahead, she showed a strength that impressed Yi-hoon. Soon the three adults sat down together, waiting for Riggs to return. The director apologized once more, explaining the situation with the kids. Their days are full of life, and Jahan loves seeing them so energetic. They just run free without any limits, but the director, looking downcast, admits she accidentally told the police about everything. Because of this, she explains, the children stayed up late. They wanted answers. Seizing the moment, Jahan asks a crucial question. Did anyone else besides Riggs get taken from this orphanage? With a sigh of relief, the director says Riggs was the only one. But she sadly notes that other orphanages were not so lucky. This news visibly shakes Jahan, prompting him to ask about past cases. Just then, someone steps inside and apologizes for interrupting their talk. Jahan turns around to see a young woman with bright red hair. She brings 3 cups of warm tea, and the director smiles warmly. The director thanks Layla for staying up late, but Layla shrugs it off. It is just her responsibility, she says, casting a glance at Jae-woo-han. She asks if these are the helpful guests they talked about earlier. The director nods, and Layla bows deeply to thank the 2 heroes. But the director sadly adds that Layla has survived a similar nightmare. 4 years ago, 2 children were taken, but only Layla made it. Feeling like an intruder, Jae-woo-han quickly apologizes for overhearing. Then Cha asks if they can help in any way at all. She even offers a generous donation from their guild, hoping she accepts. The director is grateful, but she gently declines the generous offer. She explains that in the past, many people made grand promises they never kept. During their darkest times, a major financial group promised aid but disappeared. They completely vanished, and the director says only one group truly helped. One special guild stood by them in their hour of need, called Dice. Led by Doha, they saved Layla. Hearing this, Jae-woo-han remembers the past. Honestly, back then, Doha was mostly famous for just causing endless trouble. The director continues, explaining the harsh reality of that chaotic period. Back then, tension was high, as non-human races deeply resented the heroes. Jae-woo-han sighs, realizing what a massive dilemma the situation is. Let us be real, whenever help is offered, everyone has a hidden agenda. The director admits she wants their help, but fears the hidden costs. Listening quietly, Siha tucks her long hair behind her ear and smiles. She speaks up, saying if that is her only worry, there is no need. The confused director asks what she means by those confident words. Siha reveals she is a hybrid, causing the director and Layla to stare. Layla asks if she is a half-elf, while the director looks on. The director admits she thought Siha was the legendary guild master. Siha confirms it was indeed founded by a half-elf, but downplays it. She admits she faced severe discrimination in the past for her heritage. At one point, she even abandoned her duties to avoid becoming a guardian. Looking at Jae-woo-han, she says some people choose to understand you. They choose empathy over constant criticism, proving they can be trusted. Siho assures the director that they are the kind of people to trust. The director looked genuinely pleased, hinting that there might actually be a way forward. Right then, she felt a quiet hope that this duo could really change things. Watching them go, a soft breeze brushed past her, carrying a sudden warmth. The wind drifted toward the exit like a promise of hope for those waiting. On screen, we catch a brief glimpse of the half-beast cat girl, Rixis. After the light fades, Siha offers an apology, but Yi-hoon quickly shrugs it off. Still, he warns her that this massive donation will hit the guild hard. Siha nods, telling him she knows the risks and to drop the subject. Yi-hoon just smiles, teasing that she finally sounds like a real guild master. Back at headquarters, things are pretty tense as the team regroup. Arms crossed and looking furious, Sihu asks if he's serious about recruiting Yuri Min. Yihun calmly replies that since they hit level 4, recruitment is wide open. Nothing is official yet though, as Yuri is still weighing her options. Sihu relaxes, realizing they're only discussing the option rather than finalizing it. Even so, she questions if they can actually pull off such a recruit. Yihun confidently notes they won't know unless they try, leaving her rather stunned. She starts quiet, carefully weighing the massive pros and cons of this play. She admits that an opportunity to recruit a star like Yuri is incredibly rare. She decides to let his rogue behavior slide just this once, with some advice. But next time she expects to be fully informed beforehand. Yihun bows. He humbly promises to remember that. Calming down, Sihu changes the subject. She asks about their plans for the special gift Rixus left behind. Still holding the rare item, Yihun asks if she means the mana crystal. Sihu nods, confirming it's the exact stone that Rixus got from Carol. Examining the core, Yihun notes its incredible density compared to average crystals. He suggests studying it first rather than just handing it over to Sylph. Highly curious, Sihu asks what kind of golden opportunity he expects to find. Yihun flashes a mysterious grin, promising the answer will show itself very soon. He begins summoning Sylph, but his voice suddenly drops as she tries to flee. Catching the spirit, he tells her they are just inside a safe office. There is absolutely no reason to stay hidden. Sylph, however, looks extremely annoyed. She lets out a sharp, echoing squeak, making her irritation incredibly obvious. Yihun sighs, telling the stubborn spirit to relax before she gives him a headache. Watching them bicker, Sihu wonders when their relationship became so incredibly casual. It reminds her of her own mother, who shared that exact bond with spirits. Turning back, Yihun shows the mana crystal, asking if she wants a bite. She immediately lunges forward to eat it, but he blocks her path. He blocks her path with a firm hand, telling her not to push it. He complains that her reckless greed embarrassed him badly during their last outing. He warns the wriggling spirit that bad behavior means 0 treats today. Sylph squeaks softly in a desperate attempt to say sorry. He starts the training, commanding her to shape herself into 3 distinct polygons. She obeys instantly, prompting his next order to begin spinning clockwise. He continues commanding her with absolute precision. Observing this, Sihu comments that he sounds quite different. More like a drill sergeant, thinking of her mother, she remembered. How her contract with Sylph was a mutual friendship, feeling quite uncomfortable. She thought Jahan was treating Sylph like a pet dog, but Siwoo just figured that was Sylph's problem. Wait, didn't she choose him anyway? Seeing that Sylph obeyed his orders, Jahan offered her a mana crystal. As a reward, an excited Sylph rushed for it as Jahan smiled, telling her to calm down and not hurry, but in that instant an explosion erupted in a bright flash, and Jahan felt the sudden intensity. Realizing that something was different as Sylph absorbed way more mana than usual. He remembered Doha's advice to gather as many mana crystals as possible to help Sylph materialize a physical body. Suddenly, the crystal cracked and Jahan realized Sylph was actually forming a real body. Just like Doha had predicted, another explosion went off, releasing another blinding burst of light. On high alert, Jahan closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he was in a completely different place when a voice spoke, telling him he was inside a virtual space she created. A surprised Jahan spun around as she told him they could finally talk. Startled, Jahan demanded to know how she could speak. She explained the crystal. He gave her aloud this temporary chat inside her own created space, warning that she could not keep it up long and must be quick, leaving Jahan to wonder why he was brought to this mana-rich sanctuary. The voice revealed they were being hunted, and just as she used the crystal to regain her strength, those chasing them were doing the same. She warned Jahan to stay wary of everyone, talk about trust issues, especially the ones trusted most because they hid the most. Jahan asked if an ally Was a traitor, but the voice could not say for sure, only that. He would find out soon, urging him to protect Siwoo at all costs. This was Erna's final will, the sole reason he became the successor. Confused, Jahan asked for a better explanation, but the voice insisted. He would understand soon as the crystal ball began to crack, promising they would meet again when the time was right, and suddenly Jahan snapped back. Shaken to his core by the experience, weeping silently as he grabbed Siwoo's arm while she asked if he was okay and feared he would never wake up again, but a dazed Jahan muttered that he met Sylph. Confused, Siwoo asked what he meant, just as a strange energy started to glow, forcing them both to watch as they realized things had changed. The aura and the light it cast felt completely different, leading them to suspect Sylph had become something else entirely. Meanwhile, back at the UPC headquarters in Korea, 3 figures gathered as a scientist worked with equipment near a rat. The 2 agents who had ambushed Jahan in the dark alley, now known as 015 and 013, watched a strange liquid pour onto the rat. The lead researcher grumbled that their recent kidnapping attempt had failed completely. Due to that mistake, they lost their primary base and their partner's trust. Now he demanded to know who would take responsibility for this massive disaster. As the rat started transforming, 015 spoke up, claiming his sole duty. He explained they only provided an escort, carefully avoiding any direct clash. Why they desperately feared exposure, this highly irritated the researcher. Furious, he snapped, were they actually so worried about that? He asked if that was really their excuse for losing to one single hero. Giving them a cold glare, he reminded them they weren't created for this. He warned he wouldn't repeat himself. Soon, the room grew incredibly tense. Eyeing 015, the stressed researcher snapped, "Fetch the old hunter." They desperately needed that old hunter. The agents quickly prepared to leave. But suddenly, a panicked staffer burst in. There was a major problem. The worried researcher quickly demanded details. What on earth happened? She revealed that heroes were invading, and the Dice Guild was already there. Locking down the office and arresting everyone, 015, who had been quiet, pointed out that this must be a direct order from the association itself. He then ordered everyone to assemble immediately, cut to a quiet hallway elsewhere, where a knock sounds on a door. Bang enters, asking if Doha summoned him. Doha mentions he heard about the chaos in the rank 4M, a zone, and commends Bang's platoon for saving the day. Bang humbly downplays the achievement, pointing out the mutants were already almost defeated when his squad arrived. Doha smiles, telling him there is absolutely no need to be so modest. Then Doha hands him a fresh assignment. Bang asks if it's another MA. Not quite. Doha needs Bang to arrest the IUPC manager, a man named Mi Seong Lim, along with all his workers. Bang hesitates, asking if the Hero Association actually signed off on this arrest. Without proper authorization, this could cause massive trouble for the Dice Guild. But Doha is determined. They have to take this huge risk now, or they might never get another chance to catch them. He then drops a massive bombshell. There is a highly placed mole working with it. The association itself. A stunned Bang asks if a traitor is truly collaborating with the IUPC. Doha confirms it, linking them to the recent rise in shady incidents involving active heroes. He makes it clear that there is absolutely no benefit in dealing with these corrupt guilds. He warns Bang to watch his back, admitting he has a terrible feeling about this. Back at the raid headquarters, the rounded-up employees desperately beg for mercy. Claiming they are entirely innocent, Bang stands nearby, deeply lost in thought. Reflecting on everything Doha uncovered about the group's illegal operations, looking around, he notices none of these captives seem remotely dangerous. Right then, Kim Han-sak approaches. He confirms that after checking, they are all just normal, harmless civilians. Bang immediately asks if they have located Mi Seong Lim yet. Suddenly, a terrified captive speaks up, warning they are all dead if he arrives. Bang approaches the trembling, half-dead man, demanding to know what he means. The shivering man only repeats that every single person here is going to die once those people arrive. Out of patience, Bang barks at him too. Stop wasting time and spit out a name. Finally, the captive mutters that when the blessed ones get here, they will realize their sheer arrogance. Bang frowns, wondering who these mysterious blessed ones are and if they represent Mi Seonglim. Kim Hansak just brushes the guy off as some fanatic talking pure nonsense. He suggests they just leave him behind. Meanwhile, two other squad members sense something strange. They detect a creepy monster like Mana pulsing nearby. Right on cue, 013 appears. He is accompanied by 015. The duo boldly declares they came to slaughter all the heroes. 015 smiles. This is perfect since he really needed someone to unleash his anger on. Immediately, the three members of Bang's team feel an extremely off-putting vibe from their mana. As Kim Hansak demands to know what is happening, the hooded member warns everyone to stay sharp. Keeping a hand in his pocket, Bang casually asks 015 if he knows where Mi Seonglim is. The villain confirms he does, but sneeringly questions why they are even searching for him. But without waiting for any reply, 015 charges forward with a mad, roaring attack. He screams that they will all become empty shells soon. Suddenly, horrifying larvae begin crawling from his body. The female squad member quickly draws her blade, preparing to fight back. She activates her blue dragon wing slash skill, but then a sudden scream rings out. Wait, something is seriously wrong here. The disgusting larvae are actually attacking the manager's allies. She cannot understand why these monsters are turning on their own side. The bizarre behavior of both 013 and 015 leaves her completely baffled. All at once, 013 blindsides her with a heavy blow to the head, mockingly telling her to just wait. She gets furious at herself for letting her guard down at such a crucial moment. Right then, 013 unleashes a devastating surge of energy across the entire battlefield. He casually notes that the hero actually managed to withstand and block his attack. Spotting a clear opening, the hooded member shouts that this is their golden opportunity. Out of nowhere, Kim Hansak drops from the sky, aiming a massive flying kick. The strike lands clean, driving 013's head directly into the dirt. No movement, the three companions stand together, staring down at his motionless body. 015 is genuinely surprised, admitting that the Dice Guild's rank 3 squad is quite formidable. Even so, the villain scoffs. It does not matter because Mi Seonglim is already long gone. In a flash, Bang is right beside him, staff ready, moving faster than ever before. Moving with breathtaking speed, Bang cold-heartedly asks if he really has time to be distracted. Bang swings his staff. A near miss, 015 barely manages to slip away. The villain is utterly bewildered, unable to comprehend how Bang can move this blisteringly fast. Too fast, before he can even react, 015 is on the ground, missing a limb. The bleeding villain groans that their intel on Bang was completely wrong. This guy is a monster. Standing over him, Bang remarks that dropping your guard around an enemy is a total rookie mistake. A single second of distraction is all it takes to lose everything. Bang turns to his team. He asks if they secured 013, deciding that is enough for today. He commands them to bring the wounded and their 2 captives back to the Dice Guild. But 015 just bursts into a wild laugh, mocking Bang for talking such a big game. He laughs that Bang is already ignoring his own advice. Talk about a bad feeling. Bang is stunned to see him still conscious. Meanwhile, 013 starts rising. 015 snaps at his partner, demanding to know how long he plans to lay there. He impatiently orders his partner to take the secret item right now. The villain declares they are all exceptionally lucky to witness the second blessing. We then cut back to the Dice Guild headquarters, where 2 members keep watch. Sehu marvels at how remarkably fast the entire building was renovated. Jahan figures it is all thanks to their highly driven guild master. He was an Earth elementalist. Just then, the Dice Guild assistant appeared. She greeted them warmly, noting it had been a pretty long time. Seihu quickly explained that they were actually there to see Doha. Hearing this, the assistant apologized. Doha was currently not available. Jahan took this chance to mention their business involved Sylph. He asked her to let Doha know they stopped by, but a sudden shout cut them off. A panicked man came running up, shouting that they had lost contact. He desperately added that Bang's squad was last seen at the IUPC headquarters. Shocked, the assistant immediately scolded him for discussing sensitive matters out loud. Rival guilds could easily overhear. She silently started to panic. Why did this crisis have to happen while Doha was away? Jahan took the perfect chance to ask about their connection to IUPC. And just like that, we cut to them flying in a helicopter, plotting. The three of them are flying directly toward the massive building. Breaking the silence, Jahan asks if they really went and invaded IUPC. Getting dead serious, the assistant reveals this is highly confidential information. She explains that weeks ago, the Hero Association issued a directive. They ordered all guilds to cooperate on an investigation into IUPC. She names Myasol Lim as the main target of the operation. South Korea's 6 largest guilds had planned to raid them very soon. With the plan set for the next few days, Seihu asks why they went alone. The assistant clarifies that Doha absolutely does not trust the other guilds. He believes joint operations like this only lead to completely unnecessary conflict. Because of that, the Dice Guild moved early, going in totally solo. She admits they sent Bang's squad to infiltrate the building ahead of schedule. Unfortunately, they lost all contact, just absolute silence from the team. Seihu points out that sending another squad would totally expose their guild. The assistant lowers her head. She knows they have 0 options left. Jahan interrupts. "Leave it to me," he says. He argues his guild is perfect. It is small and nobody suspects them. With just the 2 of them, getting into the headquarters will be much easier. Jahan just slides the helicopter door wide open, which is honestly wild. Jahan pauses, deep in thought, as he stands by the open door. This is the perfect chance to test Sylph's brand new abilities. He tells Seihu to cast her levitation skill again. She is completely baffled. Does he seriously expect her to jump from this crazy height again? He says there is no time to think and leaps right out. She frantically begs for a second to prep the spell as we cut inside. Inside, bodies litter the floor, which is covered in pools of ketchup. Leaning heavily against a wall, Bang spits out some ketchup, completely dazed. He tries to look around for his squad, but then he spots something horrifying. Bang's entire squad has been completely wiped out after their brutal clash. After facing 015 and 013, only cold bodies remain on the floor. Bang stumbles up, trying to piece together the fight, when a sharp pain hits. His arm has been brutally sliced open. He screams in agonizing pain and despair. 015 appeared right then, asking if Bang was just going to sit around. He mocked him, reminding Bang about his own rule to never get distracted during a fight. A new look, 015 declared he had been. Waiting for Bang, determined not to let that valuable mana crystal go to waste. He glanced sideways, asking if his giant, monstrous partner agreed with him. 013 emerged as a massive monster, calling them weak heroes. Bang realized the dead bodies were being turned into monsters, proving the IUPC was behind this. He absolutely had to warn Doha about these experiments, but as Bang stood there frozen. In shock, Kim Han-sak sighed. Bang desperately asked if his friend was even listening. But Kim Han-sak just apologized, failing them as their tank. Looking at the fading eyes of his friend, Bang desperately insisted that it was okay. The man was in no state to speak. Still, Bang promised that guild backup was coming. It did not matter. He pleaded with Bang to escape immediately. He was completely trapped. Still, he begged Bang to warn the guild. At that, Bang angrily told him to shut up before he got hurt even worse. Talking would only make him cough up more blood, but his friends still pleaded with him. Suddenly, the giant gorilla monster, 013, unleashed a savage attack. Oh no, blood splatters everywhere as Bang watches this horror unfold. The beast roared for more heroes. Bang stood up in absolute fury. He screamed at the bastards, swearing to kill them both, but in that instant, the massive hand of 013 slammed directly into him, sending him crashing backward. He crashed violently into the wall, the sickening sound of breaking bones echoing through the dark room. Standing tall, 015 smirked at how tragic this was. He strictly ordered 013 not to kill Bang, since they needed him for the manager. Hold on, because a freezing voice suddenly cuts in, declaring no one is leaving. Jahan and Seihu had arrived. Bang stared, shocked to see them. He desperately screamed that they needed backup and medical aid immediately. Jahan quietly looked around at the devastation, realizing there was nothing left to say. 013 charged forward, roaring about delivering the head of Jahan. 015 quickly warned his partner to stay back and be careful. Jahan calmly told Seihu he would handle this alone, despite her worried doubts. As immense energy pooled in his hand, he asked her to stay back. If he lost control, she would get hurt. He wasn't fully ready. Controlling Sylph was a massive gamble, but suddenly the spirit manifested. Jahan drew his sword, preparing to strike. His eyes flashed with power. He felt the incredible mana of Sylph. As 013 closed the distance, Jahan realized his sword had completely transformed under the elemental power. With absolute precision, Jahan swung his glowing blade at the beast. This was the legendary Aura Blade, a technique born from pure mana. This force is drawn directly from nature through an elemental contract. While standard elemental magic also uses nature, it is highly limited. True manipulation stands as a completely different leg of power altogether. It relies on a deep, genuine bond. This pure connection elevates the user to an entirely new level. And for Jahan, this immense power was finally awake. It was easy, but he faced an even bigger problem. He had almost no mana, unlike other heroes born with plenty of it. Jahan had none. Every spell risked his life. To survive, Jahan developed a unique technique to consume as little mana as possible, which made his combat style look more like swordsmanship than magic. But get this, Sylph had finally evolved, allowing her elemental form to take a physical shape. Now, Jahan could draw extra mana directly from the spirit instead of draining his own. He had completely shattered his old limits, becoming a true wind elementalist. In the next moment, 015 covered his face as dust filled the area. He could not grasp how Jahan defeated 013. With just one blow, especially in his strongest form, 013 lay on the ground, his body split in half, while warning that the hero must be eliminated on the manager's orders. Jahan looked at 013, noticing a purple glow in his mana that looked like a mutant's energy. He realized that their bodies were likely fused with mutant parts. Jahan then turned to 015, remembering their brief clash in the dark alleyway. During their last confrontation, he admitted that back then he could not have beaten 015, but warned that this time would be different. Jahan summoned Sylph, gripping his sword as he stepped toward 015, declaring that one way or another, he would uncover everything about who they are and what they're planning. Terrified, 015 knew Jahan was too strong, making a fight complete suicide. He remembered Miseong Lim's orders to bring back Jahan's head, and knew that returning empty-handed would mean a brutal punishment. Looking back, 015 saw the fallen body, instantly plotting how to use it. The beast sent his larvae swarming over the corpse, taking complete control of it in an instant. Now holding Bang hostage, 015 mockingly asked Jahan if this man mattered to him. An annoyed Seiwu pointed out the obvious, telling Jahan that Bang was clearly a hostage. A smug grin spread across 015's face, threatening to snap Bang's neck at any moment. Jahan, keeping his sword at the ready, warned that he could not allow that. He then lowered his weapon, proposing a deal. If 015 released Bang, he and Seiwu would step back. The villain was satisfied, laughing internally at how easy it was to manipulate these heroes. Just put one of their friends in danger and they crumble. He figured Miseong Lim already knew what was happening and backup would arrive in minutes. But while 015 was distracted, Jahan suddenly appeared right in his face. The monster could not believe the monster fell for the decoy, immediately slicing through the larvae controlling Bang. Furious, 015 cursed Jahan, but the hero just replied that he never expected the creature to be so gullible, launching a vicious assault, sliced cleanly in two. 015 could not comprehend his defeat. He was just about to activate his second phase, as the creature shrieked. Jahan walked up, pointed his cold blade at its head, and demanded answers. Jahan demanded to know what the IUPC wanted and where Miseong Lim was. Sweating, 015 admitted he finally saw why Lim feared Jahan as a major threat, trying to convince Jahan to leave the Hunters Association and join their side, claiming other heroes had already accepted Miseong Lim's power. 015 added that as a wind elementalist, Jahan would become even more powerful with the blessing, but Jahan cut him off, completely uninterested. He demanded to know the IUPC's real goal, but 015 just laughed. Calling Jahan incredibly naive, he bragged that the boss's master plan was already moving. Soon everyone would know. Meanwhile, Seihu was tending to Bang's severe injuries. She checked if he could hear her through his painful mumbling. Bang asked if she was with Epic and why she came. Seihu explained that Doha's assistant sent her. This made Bang sigh with frustration, muttering that the entire situation was so humiliating since he had evaluated both of them before. Seihu quickly told him to stop moving and speaking, warning that she had only stopped the bleeding for now. Still, Bang tried to ask if they managed to take down one of the enemies. Seihu reassured him, saying Jahan had already handled one of them. Hearing that, Bang asked what she meant. Suddenly, a massive surge of mana erupted from a body nearby. He weakly warned her that someone was still alive, but as he focused his senses, he realized this rising mana was completely unfamiliar and far stronger than anything. Right on cue, a mysterious figure materialized directly behind Jahan. He reacted instantly, swinging his sword while wondering if there were more enemies in ambush. But his heavy blade was effortlessly blocked by a dagger. A woman's voice remarked that raising weapons against a lady was incredibly rude. Jahan stood completely baffled, trying to identify her. Smiling, she openly remarked that he was exactly her type. This bizarre confession confused Jahan even more, considering she had just blocked his aura-infused sword as if it were a cheap toy. Stepping back, he analyzed her. She was clearly no ordinary warrior. The woman stepped closer, calling him quite cute and showering him with praise. Then she directly asked him to be her boyfriend, promising to take excellent care of him. Dumbfounded, Jahan quickly rejected the absurd offer. His mind raced, wondering if she was actually another of the IUPC's twisted experiments. The mysterious woman sighed, claiming it was a real shame since she wanted him. Then her attention shifted over to the defeated 015 lying on the ground. She lightly joked about him catching a cold. 015 desperately begged for another chance, insisting he only needed one final mana crystal. The woman loomed over him, coldly stating that he had hit his limit after using 2 crystals already. She explained that weak test subjects simply couldn't handle any more than that, but 015 kept desperately begging, insisting he could defeat Jahan with 1 more crystal. Her patience completely snapped. She struck 015, stating she absolutely detested repeating herself. Jahan watched in absolute shock as she declared that losers of simple battles do not deserve a second chance, brutally continuing her strike on 015. Before finally turning back toward Jahan, curious to see how he would respond. She coldly warned him he only had a single shot, eager to see if he would completely ruin everything, before launching several more heavy blows at 0:15. Before slowly standing back up, Jahan asked why she would attack her own ally. She mockingly laughed in response, asking Jahan if he actually felt sorry for 0:15, calling that kind of soft compassion completely useless and utterly worthless. She firmly declared that trash like him was dead weight who needed immediate elimination. Before they dragged the group down, smiling, she aimed her sharp dagger directly at Jahan. Declaring that talk time was over, she charged forward, saying she couldn't stand fools who don't shut up. The dagger flew straight toward his. Aiming for his neck, Jahan calls Sylph. She blocks. The woman is shocked, commenting that Jahan has too many tricks and a strange partner, but mid-sentence, Jahan cuts her off with a fierce counterattack that sends her flying. He launches her straight into a stone wall. He stands waiting. He knows that strike was not enough. He warns Sylph that their opponent is already back on her feet, thinking he bought himself a brief moment. Jahan thinks about heading back to check on her, but the enemy rises from the rubble, mockingly asking where he thinks he is off to. She says it has been ages since she ran into someone so interesting, adding that Jair is extremely curious about him. Jahan realizes his attack was not effective. Enough, he has to take her head on. The woman advances, declaring that Jair is not done playing with him. Gripping his sword, Jahan asks Sylph to coat his blade with elemental power once more. She lunges with an overhead strike, taunting Jahan to show her what his next move will be. Jahan swings hard, aiming to slice her right in half, but something is wrong. It is only a decoy afterimage. Suddenly, Jahan senses her chilling presence right behind him, dagger already raised. He barely blocks the lethal strike in time, knowing that without his high-tier skills, he would be dead right now. He realizes that her combat style is exactly like a professional assassin. Jahan steals his resolve. Confident she cannot evade his next strike, right then, a system notification flashes displaying an 85% success rate, yet she leaves another clone behind, slipping away downward. She has evaded him once more. As Jahan processes this, he tracks her incredibly chaotic and unpredictable movements. The assassin smiles, calling it a very close call, a single second slower, and she would have ended up dead like the others. She knows Jahan killed 0:13 and 0:15. Jahan realizes that letting her escape now makes her a lethal threat in the future. Desperate, Jahan decides to go all out with one decisive ultimate strike. The deadly assassin readies herself for the clash, marveling at the incredible aura radiating from him. She charges directly at Jahan, screaming that she is always ready to fight. Jahan, completely focused, vows to level the entire battlefield to trap her. He unleashes a relentless barrage of devastating attacks right at her, but is suddenly cut off. The manager appears out of nowhere, commanding them to stop fighting immediately. Both Jahan and the assassin freeze in sheer shock. The manager scolds her, explaining he only sent her to observe, not start a full war. The man adjusts his glasses, introducing himself as Masung Lim. He greets Jahan warmly, showing he knows all about his high rank in the Epic Guild. The assassin, still gripping her dagger, sighs at Lim's sudden arrival, while Jahan wonders why this manager showed up. She grumbles that she had everything under control, demanding to know why he had to show up. Masung Lim sarcastically asks if this destructive mess was her idea of a peaceful resolution. She snaps back that fixing things always requires a little bit of breaking. As they bicker, the manager inspects the area and demands updates on 0:13 and 0:15. She confirms they are both dead, adding that 0:15 dared to ask for another mana crystal even after losing his fight. The manager replies in utter disgust. He calls them pathetic, telling Jure to grab the mana crystals. They are leaving, but Jure protests, wanting to stay and fight a bit longer. Jahan suddenly cuts her off, coldly declaring that nobody is going anywhere. He declares them both Class A criminals who are now officially under arrest. Jahan warns them that backup from the Hero Association is already on the way. They should just stay quiet and avoid any more trouble, but the manager only laughs. He says he was actually counting on those reinforcements because everything is going to plan. His smile twists into something psychotic as he lets out a malicious laugh. Suddenly, an overwhelming wave of dark mana explodes directly from his body. The crushing weight of this monstrous energy instantly forces Jahan down to his knees. Gasping for air, he realizes no normal human should ever possess this level of power. Looking down, the manager explains his original plan to lure the local guilds. He wanted to bait all 6 major guilds here, but the Dice Guild ruined everything. They acted alone, but he still considers this a partial success. A confused Jahan struggles to ask if the manager was always an association mole. No regular member would ever agree to such an insanely extreme plan. The manager confirms the association does not simply follow his orders. Jure sneers, telling Jahan that he is far more naive than she originally thought. She reveals there is a massive traitor inside, leaving Jahan completely stunned. And the truth behind this betrayal takes us straight to the president's office. Inside, the general president, Jun Young, slams a paper down on his desk. Declaring that the time has finally come, Jun Young heads out and locks the door. But a sudden voice echoes through the room, asking him what the rush is. The man stepping out of the shadows is Doha, giving the president a cold stare. He asks how the traitor is doing, making the nervous president visibly sweat. He tries to play dumb, but before he can finish, a massive stone block shoots up. A block of earth smacks him dead in the face, quickly followed by another. He screams in pain, demanding to know why Doha is attacking him. Doha does not hesitate to lay out all of his heavy suspicions. Only one person could manipulate Korea's 6 major guilds and leak top-secret info. That traitor leaking hero information to the IUPC is none other than the president himself. Cornered, the president desperately claims it is all a huge misunderstanding. Struggling under the heavy earth block, he gasps and asks how long Doha knew. Doha's response is cold and immediate. He never trusted him for a second. Having such a deceitful man lead the association always made him suspicious. It was obvious. Wasting no more time, the president unleashes his power as demonic wings burst out. He mocks Doha, asking if he truly thought his rise to power was just luck. Showing off his grotesque new form, he boasts about the sheer power he has gained. This is the peak of IUPC technology, a force far beyond Doha's understanding. Doha quickly realizes this transformation is fueled by mana crystals taken from mutants. Filled with confidence, the president declares that the age of heroes is over. He calls them outdated relics that must be destroyed, but Doha stays completely calm. He raises a massive earth wall to defend himself, but the president smashes right through. Laughing at the pathetic effort, the president charges forward to crush Doha. Just a Class 1 hero, but Doha carefully watches his opponent's terrifying power. He dodges a sharp attack, grabbing the president's arm in one swift motion. Doha explains that he never underestimates close-quarters combat. Then, with a burst of strength, Doha dislocates the president's arm. The president lets out a dramatic shriek, but Doha easily tells it is just for show. Then, the president unleashes a terrifying move called Dark Pulse, letting out an awful screaming blast. Doha feels the overwhelming force of this strike, which reminds him of the demonic wings. He realizes right then that the president is no longer human. The blast tears through the surroundings, escalating the battle. As settles, revealing a massive crater, the association president raises his hand in victory. He taunts Doha, asking if he is actually as strong as his reputation claims, laughing about how the tables have completely turned. Full of arrogance, the president provokes Doha further, claiming his guild members were crushed like bugs due to his weak leadership. He even hints that Bang is in danger, trying to get under his skin, but right as he continues gloating, a calm, steady voice cuts him off. Doha emerges completely untouched, saying with pure disgust that he hates dealing with demonic wings. The president, utterly baffled, demands to know how he survived. Doha calmly explains that heroes are always ready to risk everything. Underestimating Bang was a massive mistake, and while the president's cheap monster trick was interesting, it is not nearly enough. Doha then calls forth Mumu, leaving the president utterly baffled as the ground begins to shake violently. The entire building starts to crumble right around him. In a total panic, he screams that something underground is swallowing everything up. Doha mocks him, throwing his own words back at him about elementalists being relics of the past, explaining that this attack uses mana to trap the enemy, and wishes him good luck trying to escape. But despite his trap, the president starts laughing like a total madman. Annoyed, Doha asks what is so funny, and the president reveals his real plan, using a fake joint investigation with the International Bureau as a cover. He sent tons of heroes far from the city. He then announces that the main event is just getting started, though. Meanwhile, on a quiet street, citizens are walking around in complete peace. A little boy points up at the sky, getting his mother's attention before she can even realize what he sees. A sudden wave of dread hits her, and a monster suddenly appears. Chaos erupts instantly as everyone starts screaming for help. The terrified mother shields her child to protect him. In the middle of the panic, a brave heroine named Misoing arrives, telling the mother and son that they are safe now, promising to protect them. Meanwhile, monsters start spawning all over the city, spreading raw terror. A giant spider chases a group of running civilians until a hero with a massive hammer arrives, smashing the beast with a devastating move called Colossus Impact. Watching this chaos unfold, Kangjin finally appears, tired of just sitting around. He sees this as the perfect chance to make his big move. The battle grows more intense as more monsters swarm in and brave heroes fight to defend their city. Among them is the red-haired Guts, who unleashes a powerful strike against one of the creatures. As Guts fights, he wonders where all these monsters are coming from, figuring the IUPC likely planned this whole thing, striking the city while the top heroes were gone. But a sudden ambush snaps Guts right back to reality, instantly. He doesn't care who is behind this. This is his shot to rank up. Class 1 rank, he is going to grab it. Up on a roof, the association's president watches the heroes mobilize. Incredible speed. How did they gather so fast? Doha then explains that he personally recalled the heroes stationed outside the city. The president is shocked. How on earth was that even possible? Doha calmly answers that he already took care of the enemies at the IUPC base. Just then, a figure appears, levitating right above the building. Doha reveals he sent his most trusted ally to handle the entire situation. That man, Beek Chang, lands right before them, admiring the architecture and commenting on how fancy it is. Doha reluctantly admits Beek is stronger. Beek Chang is here. His grand arrival is immediately spotted by the manager and the masochist, who watch him closely. Hands slipped casually into his pockets. Beek Chang asks if everyone is enjoying the party, warning he is about to crash it. Talk about a dramatic entrance. The unexpected hero has everyone completely stunned. All eyes lock on him, standing tall before the manager and the masochist is Beek Chang, leader of Red Hall, Korea's strongest guild. He is widely known as the nation's strongest hero. Suddenly, the tension thickens. It is suffocating. Facing the manager, Beek asks if he is Mi-song Lim. Lim demands to know why someone like Beek is here, while the masochist simply notes how handsome he is. The manager quickly warns Beek about the massive monster invasion spreading across Korea, insisting a hero of his caliber belongs right on the front lines, but Beek tells him not to worry. He was just asked to swing by, assuring them other heroes are handling the monsters he left behind. His sharp gaze then shifts directly to Jahan, noting There is an unexpected guest here. Beak mentions Doha talks about him a lot. He tilts his head, asking what brings Jahan to this specific spot. Wondering if he is allied with Mi Song Lim, Jahan quickly denies the accusation. Realizing Beak's raw mana is way more intense than Mi Song's, thinking about the failure of the Dice Guild heroes, Jahan knows he is in trouble. But Beak expected something different, not that it matters anymore. He starts casting a spell called Reverie, aiming to drag everyone here with him. As magic flares around them, the manager whispers he has only heard rumors of. Beak's terrifying power, cold dread washes over him as he realizes. Beak intends to slaughter everyone. Desperate, the manager tells Jerry to forget the mana crystals and run immediately. Beak, now holding a staff, assures them escape is impossible. They are already completely trapped in his magic, the Palace of Dreams. Suddenly, the manager notices they are no longer on the rooftop. Jerry mutters that this feels exactly like a dream. Beak explains this is a private virtual space he created from scratch, and only he decides who gets to leave. Meanwhile, Jahan remains on his knees, struggling to grasp how anyone could build something on this scale. It reminds him of Sylph's overwhelming power, so he triggers his analysis skill to learn more about Beak's magic. A system window pops up explaining the spell. Dreams where truth and reality finally merged, as the crushing mana vanished. Jahan pulled himself up and marched toward the manager, done wasting any time. But before he could strike, a sudden flash teleported him right beside Beak. Beak scoffed, amused by how fast Jahan struck the second he had an opening. Reeling from the instant displacement, the boy could only stare as Beak taunted him. Did he really not understand? He was just moved from one spot to another. Pointing back at the manager, Beak warned that he had actually saved his life. Without that sudden teleport, Jahan would be dead. Right then, Jahan noticed it. Monsters burst from the manager's back, leaving him completely stunned. Baffled, he stared. What were they? Then, the manager removed his glasses. Admitting things were off script, the manager knew this day would eventually come. He knew he would face an elite hero. Suddenly, his mana flared. Tearing through flesh, a mass of writhing tentacles sprouted, transforming him completely. They moved like a blur, fueled by the massive crystals pumped into his system. This monstrosity was the ultimate peak of my Soan Lim's secret research. Meanwhile, Beak's absolute trump card, the Dream Palace, gave him the ultimate edge. It allowed him to cast magic across any distance, but it was far from perfect. This spell came with two massive flaws, starting with the devastating mana cost. The Dream Palace drains so much energy that normal mages cannot sustain it for long. Most cannot even hold it for a minute, but Beak was on a different level. His colossal energy reserves allowed him to break those limits with absolute ease. But get this, the spell had one more fatal weakness. The target had to stay far away, because if anyone got too close, it would fail. Would vanish, leaving Beak entirely exposed and basically handing his opponent an easy victory. To prevent this, Beak kept his senses on high alert. Any surprises, yet Jerry slipped into his safe zone, and it was not that he failed to notice her, he had just completely forgotten she existed. Now Beak wondered how she closed the distance so fast and what kind of skill she used. Only one logical explanation remained, causing Beak to glance behind him, muttering that he never would have guessed she was an Azazian. Jerry smiled, replying that she did not expect him to know about her people. Beak then coldly told her he was responsible for wiping out her entire race. 14 years prior, the Azazians had invaded Earth, sparking a devastating war that reshaped the world. Beak explained that his elite squad had brutally eliminated every single Azazian, or so they believed, until he realized she was still alive. Pressing her sharp dagger against Beak's throat, Jerry listened to his pure shock. He asked how she survived and if she joined this group for revenge. Jerry only laughed, saying she had zero interest in avenging a failed race that could not even win a simple war. She then revealed her true goal, to fill the world with chaos. Blood and screams, Beak remarked, that sounded exactly like her brutal kind, but Jerry warned she could not let Miss Ewing Lim die because her boss had big plans for him. Beak asked if her boss was still alive, but Jerry just laughed, saying maybe he was not, and declared their chat was over. She moved to finish Beak, but he calmly said he had learned enough and did not need to focus on her anymore. Right then, he warned of someone far more. Just as danger is about to strike, Yi-hyun suddenly bursts onto the scene. Beak's magic is useless against Jerry at this close range, but that doesn't stop Yi-hyun. He targets another foe instead, unleashing his massive aura blade. The resulting blast wrecks everything. Beak warns him to watch it. He should have been careful, but Yi-hyun snaps back that he never holds back. He knew Beak could easily survive it, surveying the ruined dream palace. Beak is impressed. He realizes Yi-hyun is powerful enough to take on Doha. Now he understands Doha's obsession with the man. Then Yi-hyun points out that Jerry is still alive. Beak isn't shocked, noting that Azazians are incredibly tough to kill. Jerry gets to her feet, saying it is time to leave, and tears open a spatial rift. Beak quickly warns Yi-hyun not to attack, or the rift might suck them in. He suspects she knows how the dream palace works, though only 2 people are supposed to know his magic. Jerry announces her departure, promising they will meet again as she vanishes through the portal, leaving Yi-hyun frustrated, but Beak says they at least gained valuable intel and that more Azazians are still out there. He figures they are working with the IUPC to plunge the world into chaos, threatening the whole planet. Yi-hyun asks if the IUPC really broke the treaty and started this revolt, but Beak says he cannot discuss it right now. He needs to reach Seoul immediately, and he is bringing Yi-hyun along. When Yi-hyun reminds him that Bang and Seho are still inside, Beak promises that Red Hall reinforcements are on the way. Meanwhile, Seoul is in absolute, terrifying chaos. A massive monster invasion has hit. A terrified IUPC janitor hides behind a car, wondering where these beasts came from, while desperately calling Siwoo to ask where she went and why she abandoned him. Siwoo explains that monsters are attacking civilian zones and tells him to hide until heroes arrive. But right then, a massive beast towers right behind him. Luckily, a mysterious figure steps in and takes the creature down, grumbling that Korea has gone completely crazy since he left. Siwoo instantly recognizes that voice. It is her father, Kim Jong-un, a former Class 3 hero of Korea. Right then, a massive portal tears open in the sky, warping the with blinding light. Beak and Jahan stumble out, looking completely shaken up. Beak straightens up with a relieved sigh, announcing that they finally made it. But Jahan is pale and trembling, immediately losing his lunch the second his feet hit the solid ground. Beak just chuckles, teasing Jahan for looking so incredibly green, acting like the wild trip was nothing but a breeze. Still trying to recover, Jahan shoots him an incredibly annoyed glare and snaps that the whole experience was absolutely awful, complaining that his body felt like it was turned completely inside out, which only makes Beak laugh harder. Once he finally collects himself, Jahan suddenly realizes something is very wrong. The feels incredibly heavy, and the distant city buildings are nothing but smoldering ruins. He turns to Beak to ask where they are. Crossing his arms, Beak looks out over the devastated city and grimly explains that this is indeed Seoul. It is a decimated version of the city, ruined by the IEP. Jahan's expression instantly hardens as he demands to know, his voice dripping with pure anger. Why anyone would do this, and what could possibly justify such absolute destruction? Beak, though clearly furious, kept his cool. He quietly noted that the reports didn't prepare him for this nightmare. Looking at the wreckage, Beak warns they might encounter deadly beasts. Stay alert. Shifting the topic, Beak asks if Jahan knows anything about the hero associations current status. He suggests looking for Doha at the Dice Guild to get intel and plan. Jahan agrees, keeping his mind on incredibly high alert. His skill window already warned him someone pretty important is arriving soon. Right on cue, a sudden voice calls out from right behind them. It is Doha greeting them and saying Yihyun already explained everything. But they aren't the only expected guests. More people begin to arrive. Jun Kang from the Warriors Guild and Naseong from the Snowball Guild appear. Jun Kang immediately starts complaining about how much time they wasted. Naseong is far more interested in verifying if this man is Yihyun. Beak cheerfully laughs that this saves them a search for the guilds. Talk about perfect timing, but Yihyun knows how crazy this meeting is. They are standing directly in front of Korea's absolute top-tier heroes. The sheer weight of this gathering is completely unreal to him. Suddenly, Doha's assistant runs up, looking incredibly relieved he is safe. She instantly asks about Bang and the rest of the squad. Her voice shakes as Yihyun quietly breaks the devastating reality. By the time he got there, almost everyone was already dead. Only Bang barely survived, heavily wounded and sent to Red Hall. The assistant is in complete shock. How could this even happen? Before Yihyun can answer, Doha steps in, demanding Beak explain everything. With a grim look, Beak regrets not getting there any faster. But despite the heavy tragedy, their efforts were not a complete waste. They managed to find critical intel on the IUPC that changes everything. Beak drops a total bombshell, sending a sudden shockwave through them. The legendary Azazians are still alive. Beak explains he fought Jerry. Jerry possesses an absolute stealth skill that makes her entirely invisible. Even Wilder, Jerry confirmed their supposedly dead leader, is still alive. This completely floors Doha. The other top guild leaders erupt instantly. Old, bitter arguments resurface as the tension spikes in the room. They are digging up painful history they all solemnly swore to forget. Doha immediately threatens Beak, demanding to know if he is absolutely sure. Both powerhouses begin flaring their auras, making the air crackle. Jahan watches, totally confused by why there is so much fighting. His skill predicted a major encounter, but nothing has started yet. Right then, a flashy red-haired man named Guts makes his grand entrance. Junho points him out. All 6 top guild leaders are finally here. Guts, highly annoyed, immediately scolds his subordinate for showing up. But she is only grateful to be here with rank 1 heroes. Even if the entire situation is a complete mess right now. Guts notes the Kuro's guild must challenge the big leagues eventually. Meanwhile, his top subordinates are already starting to bicker. They whispered among themselves, pointing at Jahan as he spoke with the guild leaders. Spotting Jahan brought back bitter memories for Guts, he recalled. Kicking him out of the guild on orders from his bosses, he told Jahan it was for his own safety, the real reason much crueler. When confronted, Jahan had only asked for honesty. Guts finally admitted that he saw Jahan as completely useless and that his constant interference was dragging them down. Jahan calmly thanked him for being honest and accepted the dismissal. Before walking away, he gave Guts one final piece of advice, saying he would never reach rank 1, no matter what. This made Guts furious, and he began cursing Jahan. Right then, another person arrived looking for him. It was Seho's father, who explained he had to find Jahan to discuss something extremely important, and after that tense standoff between the 6 major guild generals. Guilds, things shift. Troops from the Red Hall suddenly arrive on site holding heavy rifles. They wait silently, prepared for whatever might happen next. Even though they have no idea what is coming, moments later, one scout announces they finally found their target. It is a lone survivor from the Dice Guild, and the leader orders his squad to secure them safely. Then he begins to wonder where their other target went, muttering to himself if there was supposed to be a woman with him. Where is she? Right then. But wait, glowing magical threads suddenly shoot out and trap all 3 soldiers as they struggle to break free. One of the men yells at his squad to stay calm. he reassures them it is just a weak binding spell and their draining armor makes it completely useless, though he cannot shake the feeling that this skill feels incredibly familiar. Right then, Seiho steps out, demanding to know who they are and if the IUPC sent them. One captive, utterly shocked, calls out Seiho by name. How does he know her? She demands answers. The man takes off his helmet to show his face, admitting his genuine surprise that the person they came to rescue was actually Seiho. He then introduces himself as Yan Jing, reminding her that they went to the hero academy together. Meanwhile, the focus shifts back to Guts, Miswing and Seiho's father. Guts confronts the older man. What is a civilian doing here? He simply replies that he is just passing through, mentioning they were just talking about Jahan. Guts gets highly suspicious. How on earth could he enter when the city has been locked down for hours? He demands the stranger explain his presence in a war zone and reveal his identity. Seiho's father notes that Guts is quite aggressive, but admits he makes a fair point. He then explains that he has no official papers to prove his identity. Right then, the cleaner from the Epic Guild steps in, asking them to wait and promising he will explain everything. He actually runs Mong Tang, a monster cleanup crew partnered with the Epic Guild. Then he introduces himself as Jahan Kim, the guild master's father. Sam Lim recognizes him, saying it is no wonder he looked so familiar. Juno asks who he is, and Sam Lim explains that Jahan Kim is an absolute legend among mages. He was a hero who helped win the great battle 10 years ago, before completely withdrawing from the Hero Society to focus on research. Sam Lim adds that his legendary name is known by Mage. Feeling pretty flustered, Jahan Kim admitted that even though some details were blown out of proportion, the story was actually true. SM Lim respectfully bowed and asked for his autograph, calling it a massive honor. The official who held Guts's gear said that was plenty of proof to believe Jahan. Feeling annoyed, Guts muttered about why anyone would ever bother with someone so famous. The tension grew thicker when Beck suddenly appeared. He remarked that the deadly glare on Guts gave him total chills, warning him he would get wrinkles if he kept it up. Beck's sudden entry shocked the room. Confused, Guts asked how he had shown up without a single person sensing his presence. Beck explained he was watching from a distance and quickly recognized those rookie heroes from the Cairo Guild. He then turned to Jahan Kim, demanding to know what he was doing in Korea. Jahan greeted him warmly, saying it had been a while. With a suspicious look, Beck noted Jahan had not set foot in Korea for years, yet returned right as the nation fell into crisis. Jahan explained he was only there for family matters and hoped Beck would understand. Jahan then revealed it was the anniversary of his late wife's death, coming back to commemorate the day with Sehen. Still wary, Beck activated his skill, instantly appearing right beside Jahan and calling him an complete idiot for not telling him sooner. The others could only stare in shock, wondering what had just happened. Beck's tone softened, admitting it had been far too long since they last talked, inviting Jahan out for a drink later. Jahan politely declined, saying he simply would not have the time. Right then, a cleaner was called over and immediately recognized the voice. He rushed toward Jahan, shouting that it had been years. Surprised, Jahan asked what he was doing in this place. Jahan then spotted Guts, whose real name was Hyunti Kim, but Guts only muttered something angry under his breath. Jahan observed that everyone gathered there seemed to be fighting hard against the city's monsters. He approached Guts, greeting him and noting it had been a while. He mentioned seeing Guts' platoon out defending the city. Guts sneered, calling Jahan a little brat and telling him to stop acting like they were on the same level as S-rank heroes. Guts made it clear he saw straight through Jahan's desperate attempts to cling to those top-ranked heroes. He declared that Jahan would never reach that elite rank and needed to stop dreaming. Jahan fired back that Guts had not changed a bit since leaving the platoon, remaining as childishly arrogant as ever. Jahan then taunted him, saying Guts was actually the one who would never reach rank 1 no matter what. Furious, Guts lunged forward at Jahan, calling him a piece of garbage, but just then, Doha appeared and grabbed Guts by the head, demanding to know what he was doing. Taking in the scene, Doha remarked that he was quite surprised Guts could be triggered so easily. Doha then asked Jahan how he put up with this loudmouth for so long. Jahan simply thanked Doha for stepping in. Guts, still absolutely fuming, could not believe how someone could look down on him as if he were nothing. He swore to make Jahan pay for the humiliation. Right then, Ma Jinho greeted Mr. Kim, noting it had been a very long time. Ma Jinho mentioned how they once started as novices, but today they were all prominent guild leaders in Korea. Doha cut in, stating this was definitely not the time to get all nostalgic. Jahan's father agreed, explaining that he had been tracking the regional mana signals. He could tell the Azazians were finally starting to make their move. Jahan's father reveals he has been tracking their mana signatures all over Japan. He warns them that Korea is absolutely not their only target, and the entire world must prepare for the Azazians' return, putting everyone on high alert. Beak asks in a heavy, heartbroken voice if they still truly refuse to believe him. Ignoring the plea entirely, Jahan's father turns to his son and asks if it is truly him. Jahan nods, and a sudden system window instantly pops up before him, confirming he has finally found his target. And get this, Jahan's father, he silently wonders why his mysterious powers brought him to this man. His father explains that Jahan already filled him in on the situation, thanking the group for stopping the coalition's plans. There is plenty to discuss, but he insists it can wait. Then he warns both Jahan and Seihu that they must stay out of this upcoming fight. Confused, Jahan asks why, prompting Seihu's father to reveal that the Azazians are targeting Sylph and his daughter Seihu. Suddenly, the scene shifts as a helicopter appears in the distance, a voice announcing their immediate arrival over the speaker, ordering everyone to prepare for landing.